enable this. There we go. Okay, Maor, I have your bio up here. If I can get back to it. So let's just briefly go over it. Okay, your studio is equipped with an array of digital external gear and an analog tube and solid-state processors. Yeah, you see the picture here. Let me share the screen so everybody can see this. And you could kind of explain to us what you've got here because it's it's pretty cool. I see a lot of analog stuff here. So,
Yeah, I my mastering's done mostly, probably almost all of it is on hardware, and big fan of gear because if the gear sounds great, then hopefully I can sound great. Um, it doesn't mean that you can't have uh, plugins. Yeah, you can do with plugins and all that. I think they're great. I personally just like working with hardware.
really?
This is an older picture of my old studio.
Okay.
My current studio is even more gear.
Right.
I'm just I don't want to call it a gear junkie, but no, you know, I know people will say it doesn't matter. It's who drives it, but yeah, it's kind of like my lab. It's what I like to do and I like using it. And the same applies if you have a bunch of plugins that you like to work with, it's your tools of the trade. It's what you like working with. Yeah, it's
So, so what do you like? I mean, so you're saying basically you like plugins more. Is it what? Because it's
no, I didn't
easier?
say that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to misquote you.
No, I
What was
said that I love gear. I
right?
love working with it and finding what works best for the song. Now, that being said, plugins are great today as well, and you can get amazing results with them too. You can do amazing records with plugins only, but I personally like working with gear because I get questions all the time from people, is the gear that important or you can do it with plugins? And my answer is you can do a lot with plugins, you can do a lot with gear, you can work with both of them together as well. Uh, my personal choice in most cases, I love to work on the gear. There were some instances where the plugins worked for me on that side, but in most cases, it's either the gear or the gear with an addition of plugins.
So I've heard people try to say that they can make it hot enough without you. How do you respond to that?
You mean if they can get it louder
Yeah,
without
louder.
adding
Excuse me.
mastering?
Yeah, that's what I meant by hot. Yeah, louder. I know.
That's fine.
I've heard a term called the loudness wars. I'm not really sure what it means.
Well, that's a term that's been for ages. Whoever gets it louder, if it's louder, it's better, whatever. You can look at it in that way. But yeah, you can always make a master louder. The question is, does it sound good louder? Not always. There are things that become very loud and just not fun to listen to, but some do. So I can't say, there's one way to work, and if they say they like doing their own, then that's fine too.
You're busy enough. Not worried about that. So studios, says the studio is equipped with the radio. You all can see the screen share, right?
Yes.
Yeah, just making sure. It could be warm. It could be lush, crispy tones, tight and punchy sounds, full depth of impact. So, I mean, I know you do great work because I mean I've heard it. Let's pull up your discography real quick here, if I can.
That's a selected discography, so it doesn't feature all of the work. There's way more, but just when I did the website a while back, I put whatever I could put there. There was a limitation to how much I could have added.
Yeah, don't you hate that?
No, it is what it is, You put what you can.
I know sometimes I put in bios and there's just too much information. And why is it? Okay, I know how to do this. Share screen puts this little window in front of you. I don't know if you've ever used it, but it's like, come on. All right, it should be opening up here. Here we go. Okay, you want to tell us anything about these particular things, or I mean, there's a lot of information to try to what understand. So, is there a way you can simplify this at all for us?
Well, these are records of different genres from different places in the world that I worked on, from bands like Yes or Meatloaf or Faith No More, to Starset, to El Nino, to Armored Saint, to Sepultura, to Era Gales, Walter Trout, William Shatner, just different records from different artists. Basically, I'm showcasing here that I've done a lot of different styles and a lot of records, and just gives you a perspective.
You piqued my interest with William Shatner. What's going on there?
I did a prog rock record for him called Ponder the Mystery that was produced by Billy Sherwood, and Billy wrote the music and sang also, and William Shatner did the narration.
Narration. Okay, so I was going to say, did he sing? Or
Well, that's his thing, where he tells a story.
He's great at that. Now, as you know, we talked a little bit earlier. My podcasts are vocalist oriented. So you mentioned Meatloaf, yes, yes, particularly great vocalist. What do these guys do, or what do you want us to do as singers to be ready for your mastering?
Well, a lot of people today record their own music at home, and they'll either write the music and produce it and then record the vocals, or they will record vocals and have a producer use it or a mixer use it. On my side, I deal with the end result. I basically get the mix and I tweak the mix to make it as best as possible to translate on different systems. And I'm the last creative, artistic, and technical step of the process of the production. So I can't tell the vocalists what they should do, but what I can tell them is to be aware that if they give a bad recording to the mixer, he has to struggle with it. And when he has to struggle with it, sometimes there's limitations to how good it can come out. Sometimes he can do wonders, and other times he can do whatever he can do, but still it might pop out not as good. So you have to be aware of that. So as a singer, besides your technique and ability to give the performance, if you record on your own, it will be good if you have good mics to work with that are fitting your vocal sound. It's important to have a good preamp that will sound good and um, not bring in additional noise.
So you
Uh,
want real quiet.
as quiet as possible, um, and to make sure that you don't have distortions, um, and everything that can do damage. If you set it up wrong and you're clipping all the time and distorting, or if it's sounding weird because you put the gain too hot and you lower down the output, but every time you're raising the voice, it starts to sound weird. All that kind of stuff. Um, that's something to be considerate of, when you're working. Um, and those are important things to take in consideration, that it doesn't matter how good you are as a singer.
Hmm.
If you're captured bad, you
Right.
captured your badness.
I
So,
love that. Captured badness. I love.
so think of it this way. That's how you want to present yourself. You might hit the right note, but now it's distorted.
Right.
Did you?
Can you give a little bit of a explanation to them about clipping? I mean, I think we all hear it, but maybe some don't, you know.
Well, Okay, so back to what I said before is that, you know, just because you can record at home on your time and you can do 20,000 takes and get the right take,
Yeah, right. 20,000. That's great.
okay, the mess up could be actually in the recording, no matter how good performance it is. Now, when you give that to the mixing engineer, or if you're the mixing engineer too, and you have to clean up all these noises and hisses and distortions, that's more work for you to do. I mean, even, I'll give you an example. Even a chair. Look, I'm moving the chair. Okay. It makes noise, right?
Hmm.
Those noises go into the recording. Okay. Air conditioner. That comes in a lot. The AC that you turn on because it gets hot,
Hmm.
that will affect the recording because you'll start hearing it unless it has a quiet mode. And then
Huh.
it will still sound, but really low.
Like a
So
low, like a blower going low, but cool, right?
yeah, so some air conditioners have you can call it air conditioner or AC units, whatever you want to call it, have um, a setting that lets you be like quiet mode. And that way they turn down the fan so low that you really have to be close to it to hear it. So, for example, if you have a room that you plan to record in,
Yeah.
let's say it's your home studio, okay? And you need to have AC there because it gets hot and you don't want to turn your mains AC. You can invest in a small AC just like the one you see there,
Okay.
okay? And that one has a quiet mode.
Ah, so the ones you buy at Home Depot or whatever,
Well, I
huh?
don't know
No.
if this was I actually bought it from a installer that put it in, but it was important for me to get a model that had a quiet mode. So
That's
I
great
looked
advice.
online and
Nobody
found
has said that.
what you say?
No one has said that. I've talked to, we've had like nine different producers and engineers, and you're the first one to say, make sure it's in quiet mode. That's great advice.
Well, when I work here, it gets hot here too because of the equipment. The tubes, they get hot, the other gear too. So I have to put air conditioning. Now, if I turn the main, it will be noisy. So I turn my own on, this one on, but I put it in quiet mode
Yeah.
and then it just cools, but it's you don't hear it much. Of course, if
So
you
do
put
you
your
use
earphones.
mics in your work?
No, I don't use any mics, but because I listen to the music,
Ah,
I want to have uh the music and sound in their net and not in the gross with all the other noise, such as the air conditioning.
so you have to be the ultimate audiophile, as they're called.
I wouldn't call myself an audiophile. I would call myself, an audio engineer that can respect and appreciate what an audiophile likes to hear. Yes, I can, but again, it doesn't come from um, just being an audiophile listening to music. It more comes from my profession and being a mastering engineer and trying to get, the best I can from the record that comes in for to me to work on.
All right, so what you hear is very important to what we hear, because you're gonna give it
Yes.
back to us, and we want to love what you heard.
Yes,
Is there a
exactly.
special talent to that, Maor?
I think the first thing you need to do is to love music. And second is to listen to music on a level of um, maybe understanding the layers or maybe being sensitive to the tones, uh, and then learning the skills, of course. There's tools to work with. There's taste, there's acquired taste, there's aesthetics that you come across, and learning how to work with the clients. Like, this is what I think is good. What do you think? You need me to make changes. Of course, they might ask for changes that are not good. Then in that case, you can at least tell them what you think. And if they agree with you, great. If they don't, then you do what they want and then let them figure out if they like it or not. But it's good to advise them at least what you think. And sometimes they're right. Sometimes you can add what they wanted and it will work. And in that case, it's a win-win situation because they're happy and you're happy that you did what they wanted and it worked. So um, you basically need to kind of get a grasp on a few different things. Talent is also important, but I believe that the drive and the passion is beyond the talent
I agree.
because there's a lot of talented people that can't make it in this business. And it's not because they are not talented. They're super talented. But besides the talent, it requires a lot of passion and drive and dedication and sacrificing stuff and putting yourself into it. And at the end of the day, that's really what counts because even if you have less talent, but you have all the other stuff, then at least you can move forward and improve your skills and learn and develop.
Do you know Frank Greenfield?
Yes?
Yeah, I just remember. He happened to mention that it was very important, no matter how much talent you have, that you show up.
Yes, especially in the gigging industry.
We love
Frank
that.
has done that for a lot of years. And yeah, when you are a session player or a live player, yeah, showing up is already probably more than 50% because you're there to do it. And at the end of the day, if you flake,
If
there's
you
more
flake, what
chances
are
of you
you?
not
You're a
getting it.
flake. Yeah.
Huh?
What are you? You're a flake. If you're a flake, you're a flake. What? How could people use a flake?
Right. So if you flake, there's less chances of you getting the gig.
Especially again, because
Yes.
sometimes they have to wait for you because they don't have an option. But let's go back to because you said some interesting things about getting it right in the first place. Now, vocalists, I find, and you mentioned this about you'll do changes for them. I find that vocalists are the hardest on themselves, and they want to make the most changes. Do you find that true?
Because I get the final result, then I don't know the drama, the politics, and the ins and out of what was there before me, unless people share that with me. Okay. So the battles they have gone before it came to me, I'm not aware of them unless I can hear certain things and say, oh, I hear they were struggling with this, you know. Um, it's kind of like when you see something on the news, you see it only from that side. You don't see the struggle prior, or you don't see really the other angle. And um, there are times where vocalists will say, "Oh, I need to hear my vocals more," and there's certain things I can do to make the vocals pop out better or clearer. Or sometimes they want to hide some stuff, like if they have too many syllables that come out and something it's attacking. So there are ways to smooth it. But at the end of the day, it's really mix dependent. So if the mix is low in the vocals, then you might want to have a vocal up version where there's more vocals to work with, in terms of like they pop out more. Sometimes they pop out too much and you need to ask for a vocal in a bit. Um, or sometimes there's too much S's, or pops or things that pop out in the vocals that need repair. And then you have to go back to the mix and have that fixed. So we have to remember that whatever comes our way is dependent on how it is there. So there's a limitation to what the next person in the chain can do. There's great tools to do a lot of things nowadays, but they're always dependent on the source. If you record good, then for the mixing engineer, it's much easier to work with the vocals. And then for the mastering, it's easier to work with the mix. But if you record bad, you're giving a hard time for the mixing engineer. And the mixing engineer can only do what he can do. And whatever I'll get, I'll have to work with it. I think every player wants to hear themselves
Sure.
to a certain degree in a certain way. Some want it hotter, some want it less, some want it brighter, some want it darker. Everybody has a preference to what they want to hear from themselves. And in most cases, they would like to hear the best performance they can deliver. So it's across the board, I would say, unless someone doesn't want to hear himself much because that's their sound. And there are records where there's certain instruments or vocals that are a bit buried in, and that's the aesthetic of it.
Um, so if the vocalist is in charge of hiring you, do you find that they come back wanting more changes than others?
I can't say that that's exactly the paradigm because I've had vocalists hire me, but they were happy with the mix as is, and when I enhanced the mix, it worked for them. Um, I can understand the analogy of who hires you wants more of you.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like, I'll give you $2, make me louder. I get it.
Give you $2.
But I don't think in my case it happens much. Um, and I can't speak for other people, but I can say that um, when things are balanced and sound good, then it works. And nobody responses, with I need more of mine, unless again it was hidden in the mix and then they go back to the mix and tweak it, which can happen. Um, like if I'll give you an example in backing vocals that can happen a lot where they're happy with how the main vocals are, but sometimes the backing vocals take a step back because things come up and then the guitars came up too. And now the backing vocals maybe need a bit more push in the mix. So
How do you
they
do
come
that
back.
in the mastering process, or just bit?
Sometimes we can do with the way that you apply on the stereo imaging. You can sometimes raise that, but if there's other things that are fighting for that attention as well and sitting on the same frequency ranges, then it is what it is and you have to go back to the mix.
Okay, so Dre DeMoss, you probably know him too. He mentioned the de-essing, and so you kind of just brushed across that real quick. How big a deal is that for you?
Well, when I DS a mix, I DS the whole mix. And that means certain things will come down or clean, or get smoothed, but it doesn't always mean that it's just the vocals because it's across the mix. So if I lower a frequency range or a few, it's going to affect the other elements of the mix that sit in that frequency range. So, the top portion of the vocals can sit where the cymbals are. So it will do that too, or
Oh,
on the guitars. So if you get a mix that's bright in cymbals and dark in vocals, it might be hard to uh, brighten up the vocals because it will brighten up the cymbals already and they might be too bright. Or the opposite, if you have a mix that's bright vocals and dull in cymbals and you want to open up the cymbals, when you start opening those frequencies, it might affect also the vocals and make them even brighter.
oh,
So de-essing is a function and a tool that's being used, but just like it's helpful to reduce problems, it can also create the problem because it can also now duck other things. So with de-essing, you got to be very careful. And it's always better to have a mix that has the vocals de-essed there and the cymbals de-essed there. So they're coming in balanced. So then if needed de-essing, it will be a really small amount and not as affecting the overall picture in such a big way.
okay. I'm just sorry. I'm just sending some emails because people couldn't get in through Eventbrite. I'm gonna have to figure out some other way to do this. 'Cause this is just not cool at all. Um, so one thing that Corey Jacobs said is about the trust factor. So I imagine it helps a lot if they trust you.
I don't know if they trust me or not. I know that when I'm engaged in a project, I want the best for the project, which means I'll do what's needed to take it from A to Z, if that's, how you look at that road, right? And then I hope that when they hire me, they know that my intentions are good and that I want for their best. So I will do what I think works great for the project. I think trust is always important when you hire anybody, any
Sure.
professional in any type of service. But I think that in mastering, because it's the last step, there's it's also the least engaging step because you're not with the person as much as like when you're tracking or producing or mixing. It's kind of a little engagement. There's a lot of pressure there, and trust is needed,
Hmm.
but um, it's less vulnerable as when you're recording someone. When you're recording someone, you see their emotions come out. You see they're
Yeah.
trying to make the take. You see the delivery, and when they don't hit it off right, they struggle, and you see them in a way they don't appear to everybody outside. And that's where a lot of times you have to build a different type of trust. It's more of a connection, and people more vibe together or feel that they have to be comfortable. I think in mastering, it's a bit more isolated. There is need for trust. There is need for uh, respect and appreciation, and a connection in a way, but it's not the same as being a vocal producer, vocal coach, vocal engineer, or producer, or it's different. We're at the last part of the chain. It's more of like trusting it to be the best we can and get it done as soon as possible and release it.
So timing is a big deal. You don't want to, I mean, we want to prepare things so that you could get things done quickly.
Yes.
Yeah. So I have, one of the reasons I hold these podcasts is because, you and I met a long time ago. And a lot of the people we both know, I've had many conversations with. And I started thinking, and I passed that information on to my students or my singers, whatever they want to call themselves, my clients. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if they were in on these conversations? And I think it's very important for them to hear it from you. I mean, I can tell them, yeah, don't overdrive it. But you could say it in a way that there's going to be some consequences. Not like you're not going to spank them or anything, but it's going to be more expensive for them. So let's get it right the first time. Would that be fair to say?
I think that um, today we're in an age where everybody can do what they want on their own time and on their own dime. So they can say, well, I can try to do this record in 2 years and I'll do 20,000 vocal takes till I get it right. And as long as they don't pay for it, their initial investment was the microphone and the preamp, okay, and the recording equipment, maybe, which is very cheap today. So if they want to do it right, they have all the time in their disposal, unless there's a timeline where, a record label pushes them into, um, but I think it's important to give yourself a structure and say, look, I have this amount of time to get it right, because then you'll work hard to get it right. Now, if it doesn't fit at that timeline, okay, you can extend it. But when you make records throughout a long, long time, sometimes you lose it during that. You lose the perspective anymore. You lose the energy. The record kind of takes too much time and now you want to finish it because you found yourself doing it for 3 years and
Yeah.
not finishing it. So I think, a record can be like an assignment. Okay. It doesn't mean you have to finish all the artistic stuff at that time, but take your time to write the material. But when you're going into recording, get yourself in kind of in the mood, but also in a schedule. Because if you get yourself in the schedule, you will finish it. And if you end up needing a few more days, okay, then you'll finish it then. But when things don't have schedules, they kind of don't end themselves, you know. So I think that it's not bad investing in yourself. It's not bad in buying the right gear. It's not bad in getting the right coach to work with you. Some singers have good ideas. They don't know how to get them out.
Right.
Okay. The reason they don't know how to get them out is because um, it's like a sport. Okay. You can train by yourself or you can have someone help you train. Okay. And if they help you train, you get skills of training yourself too, because it's part of the routine. Okay. Exercise is a repetitive function too. So with that comes in the ability to improve yourself. And I think that you need feedback for that. You
Yeah.
can watch tutorials every day and learn, and you'll pick up stuff, but nobody's listening to you. Nobody's telling you, oh, you hit that wrong. I mean, you could put autotune and see it show you
Yeah.
hit it wrong, but that's on a pitch level, but you might hit it wrong on a breathing level, and how much power you put into it. So I think it's worth investing in yourself if that's what you want to do. Just like I invest in myself in my profession. I bought the gear, I put the hours, I worked a lot for free in the beginning because I wanted to learn. I you do what you need to do to become better and to gain experience and knowledge. And with that, you expose yourself too.
Every great person was a amateur one time.
I think every great person is an amateur sometimes too.
That's a good point. Yeah. To
You
learn.
know,
Yeah.
yeah, because we're always, the word when you say, oh, you practice medicine, what does that mean? Do you
That's,
practice on other people or do you actually practically do it? So
that's,
practice is a dual meaning because you do it, but you also practice because it's a hit or miss in any way. And I think professionals are always in a place where they learn and they gain experience.
on that line, I just saw an article about them using AI to for like looking at the X-rays, looking at all the data, and trying to decide what's wrong with the patient. So they're not practicing. So apparently AI is doing a better job at putting all that information together. That's interesting.
Well, the AI is practicing because
That's
if
true.
people find something wrong with it, they tell them and it flags it. And then AI is learning. See, with AI, you can't play. You always teach. Anytime you use AI, even just dabbling with it, you just taught it something because you made a song. Now it tried that. Okay. Now it learned how to do that. Now it tried something else. Now it learned how to do that. And if you made a change, it learned the change you did. So that's why AI is great with gathering information and good for, you know, like, you know, like you said, x-rays. It learns what to look for. And after it has a huge database, it sees things that are different and it sees things that are similar.
So what do you
Same
mean by the word play? You can't play with it.
play means that when I say play, people say, oh, I'm not using AI, I'm just playing with it. Like dabbling, like listening to what it does. But you don't play with it, you teach it. The fact that you asked it to do something, you just taught it something new. There's no play, it's work. You're all the time feeding the machine. Anytime you ask for something and it does it, it learned something that moment it did it.
That's a great perspective. Do you use AI at all?
No,
Yeah. Not even as a tool,
nothing. Haven't done any AI.
but you got a good perspective on it, so you've been studying it.
You don't have to think too much to figure out that basically at the end of the day, if a machine learns, it learns from yes and no and yes and no. And if someone plays with it and gets a yes, okay, it just learned something new. AI is not new. AI has been
Yeah.
studied for decades. Okay. It's just now it's new because it's new to the people being using it. But the thought behind it was already decades ago developed. Okay. So it just didn't fulfill itself outside to the public like today, where you already have computer, applications that actually do that on a commercial level, that people know it's AI and use it. But it's been around.
Like it's in everybody's home now. Yeah. Where
Well,
before it was for specialists.
I would say it was always there, studied, and maybe to a point where some of it was practically used, but it wasn't an app that you would use that back then. And now it is. And now any question you want, you can ask it. Now you want to create a contract, you can make it do that. You want to create art, you can make it do that. You want to create music and vocals, you can do that. So the application now is being um, distributed to different tiers, where before it was an academic thing, and now it's all over. You don't need to know how to work with it. It will know how to work on its own for you.
But they call it machine learning. That's a term that you would use.
Well, it was always artificial intelligence, and it just meant that it's not human doing the thought behind it or the calculations. Machine learning just means that the machine is learning from us. And they can do basically at the end of the day, the machine could do what it needs to do. And later on, it could do what it wants to do. Right now, it's getting fed from us and we're giving it the yes, no. So we're like the governor of it. But it will become smart enough, knowledgeable enough, and skilled enough to actually do what it wants.
That'll be interesting.
So we're
Going
not far
back
from that.
to going back to basic recording. So could you explain to us, because I'm sure this comes up to you a lot. You mentioned it early in clipping and so forth, but sound pressure level, not versus, but sound pressure level compared to decibel level.
Sound pressure level is decibel level. Sound
Oh,
pressure level is SPL, dBSPL. That's how loud things are.
right.
So when you talk loud, your dBSPL is loud. When you talk soft, it's soft.
Oh, I thought there was an algorithm they used to explain, like the Munson curve, or how it
Okay, the
explains that.
Fletcher-Munson curve, that's a hearing curve. That's
Yeah.
how the frequencies are. And at a certain SPL level between 85, 90, somewhere there, it starts to kind of get more closer to each other. The curves kind of align more. So maybe between 80, 85 to 90, 95, something in that range, you start to see, you know, they're getting closer. Uh, I can't say specifically the number. It's also dependent on humidity and temperature, and a
Hmm.
lot of other stuff will affect it. But overall, under those levels, there's going to be kind of a curve. And then once the volume goes up, that curve straightens up. That's why when things are loud, we hear them differently than when they're not loud.
Oh, okay. So yeah. All right. So where singers run into problems is it's very popular to think that the harder you blow, the better. But I've found with harder the blow, the more distortion you create. So I try to help singers work with presence versus SPL. And I was wondering if you could if you've got any thoughts about that as far as explaining it.
Well, think of it like as a speaker and an amplifier. Okay. At a certain volume, the sound will change due to the way that the cabinet and the speaker in it reacts to that SPL level. Okay. Now you can go low and you'll have a different sound. The question is if it's desired or not. Some singers have to open up their vocals loud to get what they want. And in that case, you want to set your preamp lower in the gain so it won't distort the preamp. And you probably want to put the mic maybe a bit distant
Mm-hmm.
so it won't, the capsule won't, get the whole pressure on it. And you can put a filter also. Um, that's what you call vocal and mic technique.
Right, right.
So you need to learn how to do that, and either you learn it with a recording engineer or a professional like you that has experience in working in studios with mics and preamps and vocalists. Not a bad idea to take a lesson in that, seeing how much you push and how much you need to get closer to the mic. Pop filters are great for getting S's out.
Right.
There's also techniques with putting a pencil on a mic, like in the front of the mic, you put a pencil in
Hmm.
front of the capsule, and it helps move the air to the sides. Um,
Oh, cool.
that's an old technique, where you just take, if you have a mic, you put the pencil on the mic where the grill is, and you put it, uh, not glue it, but you could put like scotch tape or whatever, just to hold it. And
Don't
because of
want
the
to.
shape of the pencil, which is it's an hexagon. I think it's a hexagon.
Yeah.
Just the air that goes on the pencil would just move to the side. It can't fix everything, but it could do some. But pop filters are great, and especially if there's a distance between the pop filter and the mic. The more distance there is, the more re kind of attenuation will happen. Also
Mhm.
between you and the pop filter depends. And there's different types of pop filters and qualities. Um, those things are important. I'm not a recording engineer, but I had my experience in the past working as one,
All right.
and of course seeing others do that. So I learned that, miking technique for recording is important, setting your gains right on the preamp, and the gain is usually the first knob. Then there's a trim knob or output knob. Some of them don't have one. If they don't have one, then you're just limited to what your gain can do. If you have an output trim, it's also important to set the output gain trims so it doesn't clip the converter,
Mhm.
because then you'll have distortion there. So you got to make sure your gain knob is right so you're not clipping or distorting the incoming signal from the mic. Sometimes you need to put a pad in as well to attenuate, and then set up the output trim. Another thing that can help a lot is a low cut filter, especially if you have some noise in the room. Sometimes like low end noise, like air conditioning. Plus, a lot of times you don't need that low end anyway, so cutting it can actually help.
Um, so let me give you a little bit of my perspective. A voice that lasts the longest is the one that is, I mean, as far as like repetition, working night after night or long recording sessions or so forth, is the one that you respect the instrument. So if we, in our perspective, especially as voice therapists, if you blow too hard, then you make it hard for the instrument. And then other things start to happen, like you were talking about the pop filter and so forth. Then that creates extra S's, louder pops, uh, and you have to use a proximity effect to pull some of that off. But if the singer controls all that themselves, then they give you less issues to work with. I mean, as far as having to correct them, is that fair to say?
I can't say exactly that that's right because there's also physics involved. Okay, if you have a certain, let's say your teeth, some of them maybe are chopped, okay, a bit, broken. It's going to affect the sound of your voice because that's a physical element in your mouth that's beside the way you work your lungs and the way you work your vocal technique. So if you have S's due to that,
Right.
then you
Yeah.
might want to have a different mic in use that's less sensitive to that, or a different preamp that's rounding the edges, or both preamp and mic and pop filter. Um, Certain things are also, like I said, dependent on the physics of,
Mhm.
of the skull of how you are,
At the
Uh,
hard palate, for instance. Yeah.
what you say?
The hard palate.
Yeah, okay. So those are things that affect. Also, some people have a low voice, some people have a high voice. That's affecting too, because if you have a low voice and the microphone is not that great for picking up low voices, then you're missing a lot on that. Same with the high. Some microphones are very harsh in the high end.
Mhm.
And if you have a very bright vocal, it might make it sound harsh. And you don't have any control on that. That's beyond your ability. That's where you want to change your mic or preamp or both again. So I put it as two things. There's the physics,
Mhm.
which is what nature gave you to work with, and there's your ability to do. A good singer is a good singer, regardless of the physics, regardless of the nature. Now, if the nature and the physics work for him, then not only is he a great singer, but he also sounds great on everything.
We call that the gifted voice.
So that will be the gifted voice, I guess,
Yeah.
where he has a great performance, great pitch, great delivery, great sonics. Okay. But it's not always the case, probably not most of the cases. So it's not a bad idea to analyze what you have.
Mhm.
Okay. And then work with that. And that's why certain singers request certain microphones,
Yeah.
not because that microphone is great or amazing, it because they have a lot of experience with it, knowing it works with their voice. And it doesn't have to be the most expensive one in the mic locker. Some great singers will use a handheld mic,
Like the SM58s.
58 or 57 even. Some will use a dynamic mic like a 58, 57, or any other dynamic, and some will like a condenser mic, like a Neumann AKG, whatever, there's a bunch of them out there, okay?
That's what I like.
So it might work for certain situations and might not. Okay, so just because you see all the artists working with one mic or two doesn't mean it fits you. It probably fits a lot, but you always have to test and see what works for you and what mic preamp works good with that. And sometimes it's also what type of compression works with that. So after after the voice, there's the actual recording chain, which is by definition part of the sound.
Right. If you
And
don't
it
sound
goes
good on the mic, like you mentioned earlier, if you don't sound on a good on the mic, to most people, you don't sound good.
But it's not always true. There's
Ah.
some cases where the mic is not fitting you. And in
Well, yeah,
that
yeah,
case,
but that's just what I mean. Yeah.
right. And in that case, you have to find the right fit. Okay.
Right.
It's like there's some great singers that can sing certain songs better than other songs.
Mhm.
You give them that song and they shine. You give them a different song and they don't. Does it mean they're not a good singer? No, it means that's not their forte.
Not the
Okay.
right emotional colors, whatever. It's got to fit them. You know that old image of the piano player and the stack of music and the singer going through it. That's all a very real thing. I mean, it's done differently now, but you're right. It's very important for the singer to find what works for them. What do they feel good about?
Yeah. The voice of a singer is an amalgam. It's not just the voice, like what comes out. It's what he feels comfortable with. It's the genres that he's really good at. It's his pitch and tonal abilities. It's the levels. Some singers are not good in opening their volume, like opening their mouth big volume wise, but they can sing really well low. So
Billie
in the
Eilish.
studio, they don't have much problems, but live, they might have problems because then they're fighting the whole stage sound.
Right, and that's where in-ear monitors are great.
Right, because then they can hear themselves better. And then, if you don't have any amps on stage, then you're not fighting that. You're probably fighting the drums, but they can put the drums in kind of a shell and then lower the volume. So we have to look at a voice like an instrument that either like has pickups, has the wood,
Mhm.
has the strings, has all of that. They all contribute to the sound. They're all part of the result. And that's why I'm saying a voice is an amalgam. It's a combination of things.
I love that. It is a very complex instrument. I think that's one of the reasons it's so, to a lot of people, it's magic, because they can't comprehend that kind of thought process or they don't understand the instrument. But even though it looks very simple, when you look at it with a camera, with these video stroboscopes they use now, it looks like a very simple instrument. It's like 3/4 inch long for the men, 1/2 inch long for the women, and it's just this white thing, and it makes these subtle changes, this pitch change. But it's amazing all the different things that come out of it, like you were saying. There's Stratocaster voices, there's Sears Roebuck voices, there's, Bob Dylan, you wouldn't say he had Stradivarius vocal cords, but he did a hell of a lot with what he had, didn't he?
Well, he wanted to tell a story, right? And he
Yeah.
did that throughout his songs. A voice is a voice. It's a tool to deliver. And if you have a story to deliver, that's the voice. We were talking about William Shatner,
Hmm.
right? The record that I did with him. So that's a prog rock record. They had a lot of progressive rock people playing there and different musicians, and Billy Sherwood was singing as well there.
Wow.
And William Shatner was narrating. That's his voice.
Hmm.
And you recognize his voice, and he's delivering a story. So at the end of the day, you could be a certain type of singer or a different type of singer. You're delivering a story, and your fan base is what connects to your story and your deliverability.
Well,
Like,
one of the
that's a
things I
word.
taught, yeah, deliver the, we'll have to look that up.
Deliverability.
One of the things that I talk about now, really with singers to the point where I won't train them any other way, is I use FarPlay, which links us up online. But what's beautiful about it is it's very clear. There's very low latency, so there's no issue with me playing the piano along with them and having them stay in time with me and so forth. But what's important here is that they're hearing themselves for the first time, especially beginners, and they're starting to understand these things that you're talking about. Of course, you're way ahead of their level. And certainly with FarPlay, they can try any mic they want. It's a very simple DAW, if you will. And that's why I like it, right, for beginners and so forth. And if they want to, graduate to Logic or Sony Pro or whatever, main stage, uh, all that stuff is great if they want to move on with that. And we've added, Farplay's been kind enough to add reverb to their system so that I find that singers, you can hear that I'm using reverb right now because I want to sound natural. I want to sound like I'm in a room that's natural. I don't want to sound like I'm in a dead room, which this room is. It's very, very dead. That's very dry, and it creates an insecurity or a frustration in me that I don't sound good. So if I take that reverb and cut it out, I think that's a bad thing. So I put it in, and you probably don't add. Do you add effects? That's an interesting
No,
question.
it's rare. I've done that only a few times, but it's very rare because it, the music that comes to me already has the effects it needs.
Yeah.
If I do, it's a special effect and it's only for something needed, but it's so rare that it happens.
What would it be?
Well,
What's an
sometimes it's
example?
like a lo-fi effect where we take a part of the song and we make it lo-fi or work a filter on it, or maybe we'll add because if there's too much dryness and there's something that needs tad more, we'll add reverb. But it's so rare. Like I don't know how many times I've done it, but it's so small amount that I would say 99% of the projects would not have this. If there's a 1%, even then, it's a small fracture of it. Uh, most of the effects come in the mixing.
Well, what I really like about this conversation, and it's one of the reasons I wanted to have you, is because you're really amplifying the perspective that if we bring you junk, it's going to be really hard for you to do much with it. If we bring you a great product, then you can do something a lot with it. Is that fair to say?
I would say it's kind of a life lesson, if you come up with half-ass work, it's gonna stay half-ass, and then you're just patching and taking out fires, right?
You can't
It's
fix it.
always reality, if
That's really true.
if you have a craft and an art, if you don't invest in it enough, it might get good, it might sound right, it might work, okay? It might. And in a lot of cases, maybe it will. But to get to the next step, you need to do something, okay? You need to write a better vocal line to get to sound right. You need to record it better so it will sound better. Now, of course, you're going to hear a bunch of stories of someone recorded with their phone and,
Yeah.
and yes, there's a bunch of those stories throughout history, even back in the day.
Hmm.
There's records that were done with ISDN lines where the singer was remote and it wasn't the best quality, but they made it happen. Okay. Um, that's not to make you do that. It's in order for you to understand that it is possible,
Right.
but it requires work afterwards. I think that in our profession, working in the music industry as service providers, we aim to get the best results we can because that's how we get our work. Clients are happy, fans are happy, people are happy. Hopefully, they see our name there. Hopefully,
Yes.
they credit us and then they come back to us, or they reach us to reach out to us to work with us. Okay. But I think the lesson I learned is you try to aim to get the best you can in order to achieve the best you can. And that does require work. Okay. And sometimes it's not hard because if you have everything in place, it could be just getting the right take because you have it all nailed. Right. And sometimes you
Yeah.
need guidance.
You know, I had heard of mastering before I met you, but I'm much more aware of how important it is now. And I think you guys are understated in the industry. We I think a lot of people, they don't even think about mastering. They're just going to do a record and they're just going to put it on YouTube and that's it. They don't even know to call you. That's one of the reasons I want to have you on here is because I want my clients to shine as well. I've got a jazz singer I'm working with right now here in Las Vegas. Whoa. I mean, so yesterday she was wailing out the Aretha Franklin stuff, and I mean, with her own style. I mean, she's not Aretha, but all that power of she was improvising, scatting, incredible talent. I want that out there. I'm just as motivated as you are.
Well, I love what I do, and I think mastering is important. It's part of the process. It's the presentation, taking the mix to the next step, improving what's already great, turning it to awesome,
Yeah,
or
awesome.
it's always taking the next step. So I
Next step. That's interesting. So, the other thing I wanted to just, you said hopefully they'll say something about you. One of the things I found, when I joined Seth Riggs and then became his partner, it was very interesting to find out that many of the artists that use this don't want to talk about it. It's kind of like where they're psychiatrists or something, and they don't want anybody to know. I'm sure you don't have that problem, but
Oh,
I
we
certainly.
do. Don't think
Or
you're
do you?
alone.
Oh, okay.
People tend to forget that in order to make it happen, you have to have people being part of it. The saying it takes a village,
Right.
it's true. You know, uh, I'm sorry to say this, but a lot of artists are either not aware of the process going behind them, or if they are aware, they're not always crediting and giving enough respect and appreciation to the people who helped them get to where they are, or not even to where they are, but more of to achieve the desired result. We're part of the team, and a lot of times we're uncredited or unmentioned, and it's not a great situation, especially nowadays where there's so much music out there, but there's no credits to go and check. It's rare
Yeah,
to find
because
it.
the way they used to do the albums, or at least the CDs, at least had a flyer in them that you could open up and see who did what.
Some of them, they were
Yeah.
even there. Some of the cassettes, vinyl, and CDs didn't even have that too. There's a lot of credits that are missing. There's a lot of records that you'll check. Who mastered that? I don't know. It doesn't even appear there.
I
But
guess we haven't done as good a job as the movie industry, where they have the credits running for, just hundreds of people, that they show in the movies at the end there. We haven't done as good a job at bringing that out for whatever reason.
the movie industry was always way more advanced. than the music industry. The movie industry was not about vibes and all that. It was about creation and delivering it. That's why when you go to a movie, you see a movie and you come back from it feeling in a certain way and you're willing to go and spend on it and it's very different. Music today is not consumed the same way as a movie is consumed. Um, Actors get compensated differently than musicians,
Yeah.
producers, screenwriters, anybody. They have unions.
Hmm.
Um,
A music
well,
union we had as well, but didn't do a very good job.
well, unions in music is a problem because
Yeah.
then if you're in a union, you get hired to certain things and not get hired for others. There's very famous stories on tours that didn't happen because the players were part of a union or recordings that didn't happen because the musicians were union. Let's say in the music business, it didn't work right. Uh, e- Everybody can learn a lot from the movie industry, especially when it comes to scheduling, being on time, doing it right, and being compensated for that, being credited. I mean, there's a lot to learn from that industry.
There is and we have a media issue where the media likes to make it look like the star did everything. They like to sell that, you know. Oh, they did
Right.
it all themselves. They never took a lesson. They don't know anything. And then there's a lot of truth to, when the 50s and 60s came in, people, I mean, I don't know if I don't, this probably doesn't affect you, but more and more sheet music is disappearing. Its value is almost gone now. And part of that is because the interpretation of the artist can't be read. They've got to, there's so many different genres, so many different ways to look at things and how to present them that a piece of sheet music doesn't really say very much. But still, it's made it different, as you were saying. It's very different than the old days of the music, where they're hiring orchestras to do things and everybody was reading music, and your job was just to kind of be something who could read that music and make it sound good. Where now you've got to be able to be artistic and be able to interpret sheet music.
Well, when it comes to sheet music, we have to remember that the sheet music is a representation of the notation
Yeah,
of the music. It's not the delivery. Okay, it's not the performance. It's not the result. The result is the orchestra in the room and the tone master arranging where they sit and the recordist working with them and the recording engineer, setting up the mics and the hall and the room. They're all part of the result. So it's way more complex than, just their, playing of the music. It's like I said, it's a whole team. It's an island, or a village. No, sorry, it's not an island. It's a village. So
village. Yeah.
yeah.
There
Um,
were-
it-
Go ahead.
so today's music, I'm not trying to compare to old music. I'm just saying today the way people appreciate music is less than before because it's democratized in a way that everybody can do it, which is a great thing. I'm happy that everybody can create music, but at
Yeah,
the same time, it needs to be appreciated too. Okay.
sure.
When you see a movie, even if the director is one of the characters, there still has to be a cameraman chasing him if there's a chase. Okay. There still need to be somebody, I don't know, working the sound. I mean, of course, you can do a one-man show to a certain degree, but movies show you that it's a team. And even if it's computer generated stuff, there's people sitting and doing this for
Hours.
months,
Yeah. Well,
years,
months. Yeah, years.
you know?
There was a great thing that Taylor Swift did. She came out and said, "You think you can just put a recording out by yourself on YouTube?" No. She says, "I have a team of 50 people all the time doing all kinds of things for me." She says, it takes a lot of people to get out there what I get.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's even people that have to work it post the the production itself,
Right.
like post the actual recording, engineering, mixing, mastering. Now there's marketing. Now
Oh
there's,
yeah.
placement that, look, if you want to be successful, you have to understand that it doesn't come easy and it requires a lot of people to be involved. You could
Teamwork.
be you could be a hit, but a hit needs something to move it. It needs legs to push it to the radio. It needs legs to push it to the YouTube it requires work. That's what it is. It's you can't just because you became successful on TikTok quickly and it virally exploded. Okay, question is how long does it stay?
Mhm.
Okay,
And how far does it go?
right, and it could go very far, but again, even the even the YouTubers or influencers, they got to keep creating content to keep themselves relevant. And it makes sense because, you could do one thing, you'll have a bunch of people watching it. What's the next step? It's the same as writing a song.
Mm.
You wrote a song, became a hit. Okay, you want to write another song, maybe so you have another hit, and you try and you
Mhm.
write a bunch of them. Not all of them become successful. Then maybe another one, and then that pushes you again. So it's always a process, and you always have to get into it.
I love that example because what I say is you got to keep the story moving. You kind of implied that.
Yeah.
So even in a song, you've got to keep the story moving. And I think some producers forget that when they start looping the things, and using the same chorus for the entire song. Well, if it's really well written, the first verse has a different effect on the chorus than the second verse. Second verse has a different effect on the chorus, so the
Yeah.
chorus should be affected properly, and then the bridge, so forth and so on, or the solo. Some of the greatest solos are the ones that blend the vocalist coming in after the guitarist or before, and how they arrange that so that it works together. Tells the story. Move on. Vamping at the end, telling the story. Why are we vamping? Want to keep that moving. You're saying great stuff. I'm 100% with you.
Mm.
Well, since we've been an hour already, let's open up. Are you okay for Q&A?
Yes.
So it's kind of a free for all. You can raise a hand or say I want to talk, or you can just. There's only a couple of people here to ask questions right now, so you can just turn on your mic and pop on in. We don't want to be an anarchy situation, but go for it is what I would say. You too, David. I mean, come on. David's like, he's so intelligent. He knows so many things that it would be great to hear questions from him to get perspectives.
I do have a human interaction question, like how do you work in a team? So I understand that there are things that affect the recording, and that they involve the singer, I guess the recording studio producer, the mixer, and you. And so I was wondering, like, do you sometimes meet with a bunch of them online, or is it like by the time or is it more like you usually get a mix and then you just have to send someone an email that says, please tell, like, dear singer, please ask the mixer that you hired to change this, this, and this in the mix, or do you meet with them?
I usually will listen to the mix and figure out if it's good for me to work with, I'll work with it. Sometimes it sounds good to me to work with it, sounds good, but then when I work, I hear a problem that I have to go back and talk with the guys. Or from the get-go, when I listen to it, I hear a problem. Usually, I would like to talk with the mixing engineer first because he's the one who made the balances. And that way we know if it's doable or not, because he might say, hey, I'm on a different session now. I can't go back, or this is an old recording, or this is what I was struggling with. He's the one who basically knows the most on that project because he was the one handing it to me technically, even if he's not actively giving me the file. So that's the first call. And then we go from there. There's no like go to the singer, go to this, go. We first try to figure out the stuff there, and then we move on based on what's needed there. That's really where the interaction is. And sometimes the producer is the mixer, so it's the same person. So, did that answer the question? Yeah.
Yeah, I that made me think of something. So do they ever, kind of like what we're doing in this podcast, do they ever ask you before they start?
There are times where they want me to audition it, listen to it, and see if I hear any issues, and I give them feedback, and then they fix it prior to sending me the final version.
Kind of a consultant?
Yes, kind of in between before it happens. Check it out. Tell me if there's any changes you need me to make. Yeah.
Do you charge for the consulting, or do you just wait until it's a project and then charge there?
I I put it as part of the project, and that way it saves them money.
Well,
So
and again, I think it makes you a more important part of the team, as David said.
yeah, I basically, I get hired and I put that inside and I listen and I give them that, info and we can move forward. There are times where I get hired as a consultant, but that's on a different basis.
Okay, the floor is open. Okay,
Yes.
Natasha. Natasha's from London, and she's up late at night, so we always make a point of that to say we appreciate her being here.
Yeah, I also asked all the Monica questions, so sorry if you're here a while. So basically, I saw that you had some like personalized, like cool equipment made. So what was like, what were you finding with the existing like mastering equipment that was lacking, and what led you to build it?
Great question. Nothing was lacking. It was just that I wanted the tools that I can get the results I want quicker and better. So I found what I think I like, and I had the designers and builders work with me to get to those results. And not one thing replaces everything. So there's different devices, and each one has its own character and sonic texture and functions, of course. So it wasn't that other stuff was lacking, because you can work with different stuff and get the results, but sometimes you have to do that using a few devices together just to make that specific result, where I could do that in one piece or two. But it was mostly like I'm looking for different textures that I want to bring to the table where the other gear didn't have on its own unless I combine it with other stuff. So kind of like improving my palette, having more colors to work with.
So you said that it's a preference thing. So what do you like?
Oh, I like a lot of stuff, but it's just dependent on the material coming in. So it's not like, oh, I like a warm sound or I like a bright sound or each one is different. One is bright, one is dark, one is more heavy on the lows, one is more heavy on the body of the mids, one is more open. They're all different and they all fit different situations where I feel that a certain song needs something and I don't have that. And then I add it and it's like, oh, that's what I wanted. Or I add that and another thing combined. So it's not just like I prefer one tone. At the end of the day, I deal with so much type of music and so many mixing styles and aesthetics. I want to be able to cater them all as much as possible. So I have to have a large palette. Think of it as a painter with a huge palette of different types of colors to play um to paint with.
So if you were trying to mix something, I'm trying to think of an example, like warm, I guess. So what is there's a mastering engineer, I've forgotten his name, but he likes to put a lot of space in between instruments. Like, how would you go about doing that?
Mostly space between instruments are done in the mixing process
Okay.
where you carve the frequencies. There
Yeah.
are possibilities to create um, some space in mastering where how you present the image in terms of the left, right, and center. And there are tools that can create that more sense of depth and size. Um, and there's different tools that you can do that with, and some will impart that on their own just by putting them in the chain. But in a lot of cases, the spacing is done in the mixing, which is between the instrumentation and the vocals. And in the mastering, you can create that feel of depth and broader image or or density, or if you want to get more dense into it, or separation, you can do a bit, like, well, you can do a lot in terms of getting separation, in terms of cleanup of frequencies, and that can yield results of a feel of more separation between the instruments. But the actual separation is done best during the mixing, where you have all the tools and the tracks in your disposal.
So are there any like sort of clever tricks that I know you've had experience of mixing, so I'm asking you kind of both. So do you have like clever tricks for if you wanted to mix something loud, and like make sure that once it gets uploaded to like Apple Music, Spotify, it's just loud? Because I think it was last week, I think it was either Matt or Dre was saying that once it gets uploaded onto Apple, they're just going to compress it. So like, are there any like clever tricks that you can do to like get around this and mitigate it?
There's always ways to get more presence in certain elements. Yes, they will lower it down. Yes, they do that because they have a huge catalog and they want it to fit with the stuff that's already much lower in level. So it's always going to be lowered to match those elements. And some of it gets actually compressed up, like compressed and expanded, or, there's different ways of each algorithm of streaming services work. You can have tricks, and then the next year they change the algorithm, and now you got to change your bag of tricks. At the end of the day, you want it to sound good as possible. You can't predict exactly how it will come out, because you could put simulators and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, they can change their algorithms, and you don't know when they do that. So you do your best to make it sound good. Hopefully it translates well and people are happy. And at the end of the day, if you look at it as a competition, you're always going to be in a competition. But if you look at it as presentation of your art, then you're in a better starting point.
But I mean, like, you just have to keep updating your tricks.
I don't know if updating the tricks is the right word.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I understand. But I think in the end of the day, you want to keep being relevant in terms of like figuring out how to make it work. If something is loud and crazy loud and yours is not as loud, but you ruin the result by trying to get crazy loud, then you defeat the purpose and you did the wrong thing for it. So, be conscious and wise on your decisions, because at the end of the day, when it's out and people hear it as is. You made a mistake, that mistake is out there.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm not a mixing engineer.
Well, it's also the vocalist and the artist. If he made a bad decision, like, no, I need it louder, and it's crapping it out, well, the decision was made by the artist, not the mixer. You can't put the blame on the mixer. A lot of times the artist is the blame. If they make bad decisions, it's like doing a bad vocal take that they commit to. It's a decision they made. They have to live with it.
Luckily, there's really talented people like Mark. They will tell me to shut the fuck up.
So Natasha, let me. I just want to interject something. Sorry. So David has a whole different perspective, almost to the point where sometimes he feels like he's left out on these things. But I think with Maor saying that he does a lot of different things, maybe David, why don't you ask him about recording classical music?
Okay.
Choirs, things like that, things that you're involved in.
Actually, I'm going to make an interjection first. I did not realize that this all went into mastering, because I had this picture in I'm not from a recording world or anything. I know Brad because I'm part of Farplay, but I was under the impression, like, I had this mental preconception of mastering as a very transparent process. That's the last step, just to get a file that's ready to be pressed onto a CD.
That's a technical thing that can be part of the process. But today we do that for streaming. We do that for vinyl. We do that for cassettes. We do that for DVD, Blu-ray. It's part of the last process of mastering is putting it on those formats. Yes. Well, the format that is delivered to create that, like a DDP for CD, or getting it to a cutting engineer for the lacquer to be cut and plated, and then, of course, pressed. But at the end of the day, again, you as an artist client, whatever you want to call it, make decisions. If you make a bad decision, it's your decision. Okay. So if a mixer did something and it sounds bad, it's your responsibility to tell them it's not good. At the same time, if they made a good decision making something sound good and you push them to make it sound bad because you're trying to compete and not listening in the same platform, then you are the one responsible for the bad decision and they get the heat, not you. Because they can say, you can say, oh, well, the mixer did it. Okay, so people are judging you and you're like, oh, you ruined my career. It sounds bad. You made a career choice by asking it to sound bad. You're blaming it on me, but that was your decision. So you have to understand, if your sound is getting worse by doing something, don't go that way. It's like you showing up to a meeting drunk. It wasn't a good decision.
Okay, so like a version of Brad's question. Now I'm curious. If I don't know if you've worked with a lot of classical.
Yes, I did
music.
classical and
Okay.
jazz and acoustic stuff.
So classical stuff and then the not classical stuff. Can you say whether there are any differences in their preferences? Like, is one group of customers more interested in having very transparent, like no changes to the sound, or are the classical people also interested in having little adjustments and tweaks to the sound too?
It's program dependent. Some
Okay.
classical stuff does need adjustments to sound better. Sometimes the recording is a bit muffled, or sometimes it's a bit bright, too bright. There are situations where you make a lot of changes. There are situations where it's minimal changes. Um, Classical music technically mostly is dynamic compared to other music. So
Mhm.
there is a need for more dynamics, but there's also what some would say modern classical, which is really classical arrangements in modern music. And in those cases, a lot of them are not as dynamic at all, especially in scoring. Sometimes there are scores that are far from being dynamic and they want that. So it's a mixed bag. Sometimes you got to be staying true to the original dynamics. Sometimes they want you to squash it, regardless of the genre. Even there's rock music that wants to be dynamic and rock that doesn't. There's even hip hop that wants to stay dynamic, okay, and some that doesn't. It's very dependent on what the client wants, their preference, aesthetics, sonics, texture, what the mixer and producer likes. So you know, you can assume one is working that way and the other is that way, but you'd be surprised they can cross pollinate each other, or sometimes it's just a matter of redefining the style. Just like jazz today can be non-dynamic at all if some jazz musicians want it to be in your face and some want it to be dynamic. So, um, I gotta go soon to a session,
Okay.
start a session. Any question? I wanna, I don't want to cut it short, but
No, we
is there
appreciate
any?
that. We appreciate any time you give us. It's a great experience for all of us. You have something odd? I know you you love to get those
Yes,
questions in.
Maor, hello.
Hello.
Um, you always come with a perspective that's helpful, bro. And your whole demeanor, your attitude about it, how you're patient with the questions, you are a blessing.
Thank
And
you.
I just want you to know that. Um, got a question for you. Creative in mastering. How do you, if you are able to get creative in mastering, if that's something that you actually get to do, does it at least, do you get excited about doing creative things like where you have to figure stuff out and get creative?
Definitely. And to me, creative is not a function of the percentage of how much creative it is. It's more
Mhm.
of doing it. It could be 5%, 3%, 20%, 50%. There's time where I was basically giving mixing notes to the mixing engineer to fix a lot of situations that had a problem. In that case, it wasn't a mixing engineer per se. It could be a producer that's mixing or a mixing engineer or the artist doing on their own. But and giving the notes to fix that helps the mix come better, and that makes the mastering come better too. So yeah, I see mastering as a very creative part of the process. And again, it could be minimal, it could be a lot. And it could be a lot of little changes on a bunch of devices, or it could be a lot of, changes on those devices, or small changes on one device, or the opposite, a big, there's no rules to it. The only
Whatever's
rule
needed,
is
basically.
you want to do what works, and
Right.
hopefully it works, So I definitely feel creative in the process, and I think mastering is more creative than just technical. It's basically creative, and in the end, it's technical.
All right. I actually can sit here, like he said, and ask you a bunch of questions, but I'm going to respect your time. I'll be seeing you around, bro.
Thank
Thank
you,
you for
and
doing this.
you're welcome. And I just want to finish this with one important thing. The whole part of a song creation is creative. Technicality or technical is the usage of the tool, but the decision making and the thought behind it is creativity,
That's
and it
beautiful.
is creative. So any part of whatever we do, from choosing the right mic, setting the right preamp levels, setting the gains, putting the mix in a certain perspective, and the mastering, every part of that is a creative thought that's being put into the process, and it's a decision we make that is a creative decision. There's no downplaying here of the creativity that every one of us is involved. The technical aspect is how we put that into work. Okay? That's my thought about it. I hope I helped some people with this, and I wish everybody all the best. Be safe, be good, be creative, be productive, and let's make music, because it's the only thing that really unites people.
How do people who can watch this podcast that are not here? How do they reach you if they want to reach out to you?
You can go to my website, www.maorappelbaum.com, or just Google Maor Applebaum, Maorappelbaum. You can reach out my Facebooks. I have a few of them. I have Instagram, uh, email. They're all there. So feel free to reach out, and I'll be happy to work with you.
Thank you. So just let me close. You can go ahead and go if you need to, Maor. But let me just close the show saying Maat's going to be the next guest coming up in late September, and we're really looking forward to that because Maat just takes all this information, like what you've given him, Maor, you know him very well, and he absorbs it and he understands it, and then he gives it away. And we're probably gonna have a 5 or 6 hour podcast knowing how much information he's got to put out there. But this is all very exciting, and we appreciate you guys very, very much. And
Thank
we'll
you
see you
very
later,
much.
Maor.
And you can reach out to me. Thank you.
Yep. We're always friends. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So we can, anything else anybody want to say before I hit the stop?
I had some mixing questions, but I don't know if it's relevant to the
Ask just in case I might be able to help you.
Okay. So basically, well, he just mentioned about like mics and preamps and compressions that are better for certain types of voices. So like, what would you then, because you're really amazingly technical, like what would you recommend for like a bright high voice with like a seer high, that kind of sound, like very high, and maybe not some desirable frequencies that might come through? Like, what would you recommend?
So if you have a bright voice, a thin voice, and then you get a bright thin microphone, you're adding on you really want to try microphones out. Whatever I sit here or any of us sit here and say, you'll do that, and then you'll listen and make a judgment and say, yeah, that's not really what I was wanting. You really need to get in front of some of these microphones and use them and see what happens. So like out here, we have a place called Vintage King where you can go in. They have a bunch of mics set up, and you walk up to each mic with headphones on, they're just in a row, and you sing into those mics, and you get to hear what they sound like on your vocal, and how you perform that vocal on one song will be different on another. So really, there is no, I can tell you anything, and I have an answer for you that I could give you on, but you really need to get in front of microphones and start and get that experience. So like, what'd you say,
I'm
Brad?
sorry. Do they keep the vocal chain flat though, so as you're going from mic to mic, that it's not being changed by the vocal chain?
I have no idea what all they're doing, because certain, like, they might even have I shouldn't even speak on what there's no telling what they're doing. The smart thing would be to have it all going through one preamp. But even with that, when you have this microphone and this preamp, wait, do you know what a preamp does?
Yeah.
But Natasha, do you?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
So my understanding of it, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that it's the thing that it like boosts the mic or something, signal the mic before
your microphone signal is this small. Some have amplifiers inside the mics or whatever that may be this big. The preamp makes it huge. It amplifies it to a usable level. I mean, the microphone signals are real small.
Is my Poly Twin that preamp?
It has a preamp inside of it. Yeah, you plug it into that, and there is a preamp inside of there. And then there are dedicated preamps that you would connect to the microphone and go into the Apollo. But the bottom line is, whatever say you have this mic, this preamp, right? When you use a different preamp, that mic sound and feel can change. It's not all it's sort of like the Wild Wild West, and you really have to just get on the stuff and use it. You can say you listen to a Barbra Streisand album, you like what you hear, you find out what they used, and you go and get it, and then you hate what it does to your vocal. Like, so you really need to, like, find somebody, if you know a studio that has mics in it, mic lockers, like some of us, we sit and we say, I have all these mics. Rent that studio for an hour or two, go in there and use those microphones. You tell them you're coming in to see what your voice sounds like on microphones. And it's a thing. Like, there's videos online where right before a studio session, a person will sing through, say, 10 microphones and come back and listen blindly and see what they like. And it can vary a lot. And there's many things that can make it change. So again, no matter what any of us tell you, you as a person and what the results you get, and you find out when you start using that stuff. We can guess and make moves. We'll know certain things, but you'll hear a lot of times in interviews, yeah, I was surprised this $100 microphone was the one we ended up using. I was ready to use this because her voice is such and such and such and such, but it ends up being this other microphone. So that the real answer, find some place that has microphones, go in there and start using, and you'll find that different combinations, different mics on your vocal, you might come in and your voice is not the same today as it was tomorrow. There's all kinds of stuff. And it's a thing for you to start learning. Now, Slate and others have these things where you sing into the microphone and then you switch microphones after it's recorded and listen to which one you like the best. That's what some people are doing to get around it. Slate makes a microphone that just is a transparent thing. And then there's plugins that you put on afterward and change the sound of the mic to different microphones. It copies different microphones and you sit there and you choose, and it's cool. It'll get you past a lot,
So let me interject. I purposely don't talk about vocal technique on these things because I don't think vocal technique is appropriate other than on a one-on-one basis. But you brought it to a subject here that is interesting about vocal technique. A natural singer, a singer who has no blockage, because the voice is such a complicated instrument, you can play with the larynx. And in a way, the larynx kind of is a tone. It could be kind of like a tone generator, or you think of it as a cavern. If it's low, then you get this kind of woofy sound. you pull it down, oh, it's like people who do cartoon characters. They're immensely talented at this. And then you can say it's very high. I want you to take it up, going in the nose. And there's some things that you could do with your tongue and all kinds of things. Elvis was, I don't know if he knew what he was doing because he basically says Baptist church is where he got most of his, what he did. But there was a thing in the Billy Rock era. Elvis wasn't the only one. There was a Big Bopper and so forth. And they played with the lyrics this way, like Elvis would say, blind bands, only fools rush in. So all these colors can happen before you even get to the mic. So don't forget that part.
Yep.
So yeah, Matt, you were saying, so basically in LA, Village King and Guitar Center, is there anywhere else that's in LA?
Well, I've never gone to Guitar Center and went through a bunch of mics. Just Vintage King they just have they know it, they make it easy for you. There's a room that is there specifically for that. I've never done that at Guitar Center. But what I'm telling you, what might be really pretty cool for you is you look up Slate microphone emulator. I forget what it's called, but if you look for it, you'll find it. And there's other companies that do that, where say you like a U47, a U67, and who knows whatever type microphone, you can record your vocal and then change inside after it's recorded. Change the sound of that recording by choosing different microphones that are digital versions of the microphone. And whether or not it's exact or something like that, just you go through and you do it, and you'll be surprised at how you sound and how the feel of it is. The feel changes. Like there's an emotional change if your voice is all of a sudden dark. There's a perception of the emotion on when it changes with these different characteristics. Like if one of the microphones changes your voice to being bright and airy and some resonant whatever, it affects how you receive it. But it's a cool thing that Slade and others have done. I'm sitting here looking at Sweetwater. I just looked up. I just went to the internet and looked up M1. It's Slate M1 modeling microphones. So Slate virtual microphone system. If you look that up, you'll start seeing what I mean. Yes, look that up, because you can get one microphone and basically you end up having like 10, 15, 20 microphones by buying one.
Yeah, I think it's based on what you were saying the other day, that you don't want to get something and then not actually like it. So it's like if there's I don't know if renting's an option, or if you go to a studio and they've already got the mics and they'll let you listen to them. But yeah, I definitely think it's worth going into somewhere like Village King and trying a bunch of stuff. I actually had a mastering question, but he has to go. So I just wanted to know, so is it normal for the mastering guy to sit with the producer and be there whilst producers actually and the mixing engineer, or is it usually they're sending files and the mastering guy's somewhere different? Because I saw this interview with I think it was, I don't know if it was Gina or maybe Nathan, that was it, Nathan and Dantzler, and he said that he actually likes to sit with the producer because things get done quicker, and then if for whatever reason he's doing something and the producer wants him to go in a different direction, he can guide him straight away. So, but is that normal, or
No.
are they actually sending files?
That is absolutely not normal, and it is absolutely done by some. I've done that where I'm not a mastering engineer, but I was taking on that role, and it was fun. We were able to, it's like you're driving a car as a team. If a vocal needed to be lowered, I'm doing my stuff, you could hear the problems that would happen, and the person on the mix could do stuff because their gear is going out into mine, and like we could do that little teamwork thing. No, that's not normal. There's more than one way that guys work when it comes to mastering. Like some guys will do what they call stem mastering, where you send out all your vocals, all your keyboards, all your drums and whatever as separate things, and then the mastering engineer reassembles it. I had a friend who he was a mastering engineer, successful at doing that, but that's not traditional mastering. There's no one set way that it absolutely is to be done. If somebody's not doing it the way you want, you just find somebody who is, and you pay them, and you know.
So is it not?
Oh, sorry. So Mott, you're our resident AI expert. So is AI getting into mastering?
Yes, AI has been into mastering. There's a post on Facebook that I made 2-3 years ago, and I started it off. I can't wait to bump this post in a few years to show everybody, you know, because mastering engineers were highly upset with what was coming, because they were being replaced, and they were saying AI would never be able to blah, blah, blah. And AI said, hold my beer, and has been kicking butt. But part of it is, say I want AI to master my stuff, and I say I pay $10, have AI mastered. I listen to what happens. I can make changes and send it again. And so now I'm making adjustments. But even with that, some of the AI has it to where I can go in and turn knobs and adjust certain things to get the final result that I want. But even with AI, there's different forms and versions of what they're doing. Some are using actual gear that they're running it through, like ARIA mastering. They actually have a gear. They have gear that you're running the stuff through. And there's a certain technical thing that the mastering engineer who does like top-notch work, he just makes everything fit within a certain spec on what he would just naturally do, and then you make choices. But yeah, AI's been kicking butt, and here's what I liked about AI. There are mastering engineers who suck. They're horrible. And then there are mastering engineers who are awesome. But that goes with everything. There are car drivers who are horrible. So if you can't beat the AI, you lose. There are people who had to step their game up because AI was spanking them, and for like $10. Now you spend $10 and AI beat this guy, you spend that $10. You might send stuff to the AI guy, to the mastering human, and he limit and compress your stuff to where things start hurting your ears and everything changes. And then AI, you might get an AI version that doesn't do any of that, and it costs $10, where the human costs, say, 50 or 100 or $200. It's a no-brainer. You go with whatever gives you the results you want. So yeah, I'm in love with AI. Huh?
Is it normal to give well, obviously it's normal to give a producer a reference track, but is it normal to give like a mastering guy a reference track and be like, this is the kind of feel I'm going for?
You can do that, yes. Some might even ask for that. You'll have mastering engineers who will simply want to listen to your song and make it be whatever it needs to be, meaning if you're trying to bring a sad emotion across, they want to help it really do whatever the song is meaning to do. Like if they're crying on the track, you can do stuff that makes it to where that emotion is revealed or hide it. Like it's more of that. But yes, people will send reference tracks. But if you're doing opera, if you're doing something that's not fitting to this, and you're trying to use that as a reference, it's like, you know, you have a stallion and you're bringing in a little mule, you know, and you're trying to say, I want my mule to be like the stallion, or vice versa. You know.
I had a question for Brad as well, actually. So I was thinking about this the other day, and so this is like a vocal training question. So I was talking to someone like a friend, and basically we were discussing in terms of like vocal rest whilst you're performing. So I understand. So usually I understand that if I'm working out on a cross trainer or I'm working out at the gym, I'm going to want to have like days off in between. So I'm not one of these people who works out every day, because I like my body needs time to rest, to, like assimilate nutrients, blah, blah, blah. And so what advice do you give for somebody who maybe, is going to go on tour and has to sing every day? Some people say that you should, pay attention to what you're doing. So my friend was actually saying you should pay attention to what you're doing with your voice throughout the day. Yeah. So like, even if you're very vocally active in the day, that's going to affect your voice. I actually haven't had an experience where I'm like singing every day for multiple hours. However, I do know that there are singers that they do like all day, like they're like, I don't know, session singers or whatever, and they'll literally be like singing 20 songs from morning to night and do the next thing the next day and the next day. There's this I was looking, Mark looking at me like crazy, but yeah, seriously, there's this I was looking at this Indian producer, actually, because I've got some Indian roots, and last night and I was just like looking around, and then they were talking about these singers that they were working on some Bollywood film, and basically these singers, what they do is, because they're so in demand in India, they will literally be singing from 9 till like 6 or whatever every day, 20 songs, multiple movies. And I was like, I don't know if I could do that. So what advice would Brad give in terms of, like, first of all, obviously for longevity, like, is that sane? Because there are people that do it, and I know that there's people that do it in Nashville as well. Like, you go and that's their job essentially. You can just pay them to sing for you. So, but in terms of vocal health, like, what are your, because you're knowledgeable, so what is your take on that?
Well, it's a fantastic question, and I've promised honesty on this podcast, so I'm going to give you the nitty gritty. Okay, so the vocal cords are not the number one function of the vocal cords. It's not speaking or singing. The number one function of the vocal cords is to protect your lungs. So there's various things that the nervous system uses, and vocal cords are one of them, to monitor what's coming into the lungs. So, for instance, poisonous gas, smoke. You see people coughing at lack of oxygen. I don't know if that's a real thing, but I did read about this. And what happens is the vocal cords get irritated. That's their function. So they feel something is coming in, they get a little irritated, then they send that signal to the brain. They say, I'm getting a little swollen, something's going on here that doesn't quite feel right. And then the brain sends back to the vocal cords, okay, you're going to cough. Well, what's a cough? All right, so a cough is when the vocal cords clamp. So if this is the space between them, they clamp as hard as they can. And then the upper abdominal muscles, the upper costal muscles, squeeze as hard as they can, which squeezes the ribs, which puts a lot of pressure on the lungs, which puts a lot of pressure on the air, which is going to put a lot of pressure on those cords. And then eventually that pressure is going to get so high, cords can't hold it anymore, and they're just going to pop open. That expels anything in the air chain that shouldn't be there. All right, so now we come along, and we're very brilliant people, and we can do all kinds of things, and we ask the vocal cords to do something that irritates them. Singing is an irritant. Now, so how do we deal with this? Well, it's not like a muscle. And like you mentioned, the gym, one of the things about the gym is especially with weight training, they say that red muscle it should be rested 48 hours before repeated, because you're tearing it. You tear the micro tears in the muscle, and then they have to come back together and heal before you do it again. Otherwise, you could keep tear. Vocal cords aren't like that. There are muscles that are involved, but the level of fatigue in the muscles is very low compared to the irritant of the vocal cords. Now, here's the good news, and here's how to answer your question. let me go back just briefly. There's gifted singers, okay? And we talked about that a little bit with Maor. These people are like your Whitney Houstons. They can sing longer than everybody else, and here's why. Their voices are naturally more present than everybody else's, and it takes less air pressure and less less effort on their part to be loud. So they may be putting out 50% of their ability, and you're going, oh my God, that's incredible. So they can do that 50% over and over and over again. And then there's somebody who takes 80% to get that same thing. Well, that 80% is going to take more out of them. There's a kind of an image I like to use, basketball. So you have your 7-foot basketball players, and you have your 6'3", and you have your maybe 5'11", not very often, but you know that happens. But who's the easiest one to dunk the ball? Well, the 7-footer. Or above, like this big Chinese guy they had for a while. They just had him stand under the basket. They would just throw the ball to him, and he'd just go boom. Right? So for him, dunking the ball, he could do it all day long. It's nothing. Boop, boop, you know. Or they don't have to jump as high, or whatever. Or maybe they have a better muscular system. There's all kinds of gifts, so to speak, that make it easier for people. So you have to keep that in mind. You can't be those people unless you were born that way. And so trying to compete with them one-on-one is really, you might beat them because maybe you're more gifted. But, you know, we also talk a lot about this being an art and not a competition. So the good news is you don't have to compete with them. Now, let's take a look at the vocal cords again. If you don't irritate them for too long a period of time, they can settle down very quickly and you can start over. But if you irritate them over and over, so if you just say, okay, I'm going to sing for 8 hours, I don't care what happens, you may not be able to talk the next day. But if you spread that 8 hours over 10 hours or 12 hours or 24 hours, give yourself breaks. So you're practicing, right? So you practice for 15 minutes, then you go get a little bit of tea or honey, whatever. Not to say that tea and honey really helps the voice, it doesn't, but just to make you feel good, to give you a little break, then you go back and do it again. There's also neuro information about this, about building muscle memory. So you don't want to go 2 hours doing the same thing over and over again because the brain starts going, I can't focus on this anymore, and it really starts to deteriorate. Whereas if you go 15 minutes and then take a break, and then another 15 minutes and take a break, that pattern will grow at a much faster pace. And they're talking about this about learning anything. So the vocal cords in the brain are kind of similar. If you don't push them too far and you give them a break, they'll come back and say, okay, I'm happy to give you some more. If you push that line, and it's different for everybody, you have to find your own line. You push that line, you go a little bit too far, you'll know the next day. And there are impossible situations. I used to do 6 nights a week, 5 hours a night singing, plus rehearsals during the day. Oh my gosh. Call me at noon and wake me up at the hotel. I grab the phone and I go, hello? That was a real thing, you know. And my whole day, where's the steam room? Where can I get a steam room? Aerobic exercise. How am I going to get to the next night? And vocal technique, which I didn't have at the time, is a great thing to help with that kind of thing. But there's gigs here in Vegas where they want you to sing for 3 hours straight. No guitar solos. No instrumentals. Sing. Song, 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 song. 3 hours straight. That's unreasonable. But some singers take the jobs and they do it. And, you know, I don't know if they're happy or not, but some people, you know, I had a student who's very gifted and we decided it wasn't worth it. So she just turned the gig down.
But when you say settling, you mentioned settling down the vocal cord, do you mean, is it inflammation? Like what is that in like a scientific?
Yeah, hoarseness is inflammation. The doctors call it edema. And
Okay.
if you're so bad that you're going in going, doctor, please help me, they're going to say you have acute edema. Okay, so Hoarseness is swelling of the vocal cords. Swelling comes from irritation. So if you don't over push the irritation factor, then they'll calm down. They'll look at it this way. It's a great example, a balloon. Okay, so a balloon is a balloon full of water. Now, if you have a balloon that doesn't have a lot of water in it, it's going to vibrate better. Water is not a good vibrating source. In fact, acoustic engineers can actually use it for sound absorption if they want to design a fountain or a pond in the room. You can say this will suck this much sound out of the room and make it dead. Okay, so you take that balloon, it's got water in it. So your vocal cords have fluids in them, and the mucous membrane that's wrapped around them, especially, is fluid. The vocal cords themselves are more of a ligament material. And this is a big misunderstanding in the vocal world. Ligament is something that is hard and it's a little bit more on the brittle side. It's white, and there's not a lot of blood flow through it. It's one of the reasons the singers have to warm up, because we need to get that blood flow in there so that they can start to get flexible. So flexibility is huge. I was talking to a 65-year-old fellow who wants to start with me, and I said, look, we're really going to work a lot on flexibility, because as you get older, you're going to lose that, right? So there's exercises for that. But if they start to get irritated, imagine how that balloon is filling up with water. So now it doesn't like resonating very well. It doesn't like this vibration process anymore. It's starting to resist it. It's starting to go, oh, I'm slushy and I don't want to do this. So then you give it a rest and that water goes down. That swelling goes down. That blood flow goes down. Now you've got vocal cords that say, okay, I'll do that again. No problem. And to really put a fine point on this, or to dramatize it, if you're a singer and you have great vocal technique, and you know exactly how to use those vocal cords, but you have pushed them into this area of swelling, they won't do it. They will refuse. You probably experienced that, maybe not in that thought process, but it's like, well, wait a minute, I could do it yesterday, or I could do it half hour ago. Why can't I do it now? It's the same mental command. It's the same muscle memory, but they won't do it. And this is why they're such a hard instrument to work with. They're constantly fluctuating. And then there's the without taking up an hour of your time, there's also the biology factor. The fact that you are changing just biologically. We are very dynamic. And so half hour earlier, your body felt a certain way, a half hour later, it felt a certain way. All those things can affect your singing, how much, how dehydrated or hydrated you are. Big subject. Great question.
So is there a way of like, I mean, I would like to try and find tricks and things, and I take videos of our voice, and like my flat's like an apothecary. But it's mental. But basically, so is there any way, anything that you recommend that you've come across along the way that like will help with the edema and like take the inflammation down? Because my response would be like get a herbal anti-inflammatory, or but is there anything that you found that will take that edema down?
Well, you may have to try things, but steam is the best. And the steam room is far superior, because the steam room actually brings up your cardio level as well. So you get a nice warm blood flow going through that area, which helps it when you're done, it helps calm it down. Steam is like a warm compressant against your vocal cords. You can't touch them. So you can't get your fingers down in there. They won't, I mean, you'll be coughing your head off. You try to put anything down there to massage them, and they're just going to go absolutely bonkers. But there is also sprays, and they're called atomizers. And perfume bottle, for instance, is an atomizer. You know how that spray comes out so misty. Yeah. Okay, so in order to deal with the vocal cords, you have to bring it into that type of lightness, if you will. Because if you take something like we take a hose and open your mouth and go, and spray that water in there, you're going to be coughing, right? But if you take something that's designed for singers, that is an atomizer, and they have good products in there. Aloe vera, I think, is very good. There's talk about black licorice root being soothing, but you have to spray that. And when you spray it, and as I learned this from an ENT doctor, he said, do not just spray it like that. He says, that'll go right in your lungs. He says also, it's only touching the edges of your vocal cords because they're back in their little pockets because you're breathing. Right? He said, so say, ah, if you prefer, or ah, or whatever, while you're spraying. Ah, you spray that. That way that atomization will lay right on your vocal cords and it won't irritate them because it's very gentle, it's very soft, and it can reduce swelling. So yeah, there are definitely products for that. But, stay away from citrus, stay away from menthol. These companies, they want to please you, so they'll give you all these options. Stay with apple, no orange. I don't know about banana. I've never seen that. But, peach, stay away from anything that might be any acidic or menthol. Menthol, the problem with menthol is what makes it feel good is it's evaporating. So you don't want to put both things on your vocal cords that are evaporating, taking away the moisture. Feels great. Menthol lozenges? No. No. And, I mean, if something truly has a really good aroma to it and you suck on it, that might help. But the more direct approach, the steam, there's also, there's a company called Vocal Mist. I'm using it. And it just provides just water. It has sodium chloride in it. Otherwise, you'll cough that out. Yeah, sodium chloride is they put that in the water to kind of assimilate your saliva. Yeah, so there's a special thing that you pour in there. It's like 9% or 0.09%, something like that. But they're very specific about that. And a lot of people use it for a lot of different reasons. People who are asthmatic, things like that, and or sinuses. They want to clear out their sinuses. You can use that. So the nebulizers, they call them.
Yeah, so I've got one that has distilled water. I forgot what it's called. It's in the other room. But so basically, there was another vocal question I wanted to ask you. So when I was been like training, like previously, I'm not working with a vocal coach now, but I have previously. When I was singing high, it was almost like I could feel, I don't know if this is me being mental, but I could feel like not pressure. It's like almost like I can feel something closing.
You can. It is.
Yeah. And let's say like I haven't trained for a few weeks and I'm the type of person that I need to train every week because to keep it up, like
it's not just the type of person, that's true for everybody.
Yeah, so like what I find is when I like with a good vocal coach, it'll go like this, like this, like this, like this, and then if I don't train, it'll go like this. It'll never go back down, but it's like sometimes I'm like, oh, I can't hit that note. So what is that? Like, what was that? And because I also almost felt like, because sometimes, so when I'm training all the time, then I can hit high notes. I can go high as high as I want. But if I haven't trained for a while, obviously I can't get that high. Like I have to train up to it. But then I had this sensation where I could actually like, it wasn't like a tightness. It was almost like I could feel them closing on each other. And it's like, we are not going any further. So I was like, what do I do about that? Apart from just keep training, like what are there any ways of helping it so that it doesn't,
briefly, the vocal cords take a lot of maintenance. And we talked about that briefly about flexibility. So here's how you have to understand how flexibility works with vocal cords. When you understand the science of sound, you understand hertz, frequencies per second. Okay, so a man speaks between 100 and 200 cycles per second. So that means each vocal cord is vibrating 100 to 200 times a second. A woman is closer to 300 or 400. And A440, that thing that they talk about that orchestra's tuned to, that's of each vocal cord is vibrating 440 times per second. Now, when you start to go above that 440, let's say you double it. Let's say you do an Aretha Franklin scream. Well, now you're at 880 cycles per second. So the vocal cords have got to vibrate 880 times per second each one. Right? So now you want to do some whistle sounds like Mariah Carey. Well, then you're up around 1,600, maybe 2,000 times per second. I just recently read that she can sing a D7. That's just crazy. I've heard C7s before, but D7s, that's new to me. But anyway, you've got to think about flexibility. That's where we're at, where I mentioned to you that you may have great vocal technique, but you still can't hit the note because you don't have the flexibility because they've swollen up. Hoarseness is, the first thing a singer says is, when I get hoarse, I lose my high end. That's because the swelling creates stiffness and you can't vibrate quickly enough. Now, the other issue is the larynx. Now, you mentioned high. There's a thing that we deal with as vocal coaches, those of us who I think are legit, where we understand the high larynx condition. And there's actually a guy who wrote a book who he used the term, he really dramatized. He said, a lot of singers have the high larynx disability. High larynx disability. That means we create a disability. This comes from the word high note, and this is happening to 99.9% singers in the world. When they decided to write music, they've used the five lines, left to right, and then they decided that the notes would go up and down on this graph. Right? So if you go up the scale, and you go down the scale. All right, well, the human brain interprets that as a true vertical. Up for note. And I've even seen cartoons written that way. Well, this is a high note. You know, it's like they're trying to explain to a child what high note is, and they have this little cartoon guy going, this is a high note. And the other guy goes, well, the truth of the matter is that there is no vertical. Okay? Sound goes in every direction. But the vocal cords themselves, there's no vertical. They don't go up and down. Now the larynx, that's another issue entirely because it is the swallowing mechanism. That and a couple of other things that are involved, like the epiglottis and the false cords. Now, when you swallow something, everything in the windpipe is closing because you don't want food or water on your vocal cords. Remember how I mentioned that they protect the lungs? So if anything touches them that is as heavy as water even, or heavy as like a piece of meat, they're going to freak out. All right, so everything closes up, the epiglottis shuts off that hole, and everything goes down the epiglottis. I mean, I'm sorry, not the epiglottis, the esophagus. Everything goes, similar words. Everything goes down the esophagus. So if you have the imagery in your mind that singing needs to go up, then the larynx is one of the few things in the body that can literally do that. It can go up to try to help you. So a big part of habit breaking that I do on a regular basis with almost everybody is help them understand the larynx needs to float, it needs to stay down. If it goes up, you're choking. So when you mentioned that feeling, your larynx may have tried to come up and help you hit the note. And when it tries to help you, it's literally choking you. So it's really opposites.
Yeah, I can literally feel like that. It was like, I feel it. And I was like, oh, I'm not even hitting the note, you know? But yeah, so, and then the other thing I wanted to ask you was, so a few years ago, because I've had vocal training in London for a few years, but and I've had a few different vocal coaches, but one particular vocal coach, she sent me to this guy who I don't really understand exactly what his job description is, but he works with opera singers, and I had pretty bad posture. So first of all, he corrected my posture. I understood what he was doing there. But one of the things that he did was I don't know if, so diaphragm manipulation, where he was like, literally, it was painful, like sticking his hands up my, I was just like, this is painful. And then also doing something where he was putting his fingers like in my, to be fair, it was painful, but it
no kidding.
Like a thing. But he was literally like, and apparently in London when there's like opera, this guy is like backstage and he's doing it for the opera singers. And it was literally like, and obviously this vocal coach was recommended. I didn't see her after this, but but she she recommended this, but I didn't actually know why. So like, what were they doing? I just felt
You know,
like
I'm not sure, but I will never touch your neck.
no,
That,
that's fine. That's fine. If someone needs to touch my neck, they
no,
need to
no,
touch.
I mean, no,
I
it's
don't
a very
understand, like,
sensitive, it's a very
yeah,
sensitive area. I mean, that's how you choke people. You know, you can manipulate the larynx without somebody putting their hands on you.
yeah,
Okay, so if I want my larynx to go down, I make a ghost sound. Ooh, right? That opens me way up. Now I can do great warm-ups with that and create a lot of flexibility because I give my vocal cords a lot of space to move in. Opera's an interesting issue. Opera singers and microphone singers are different. And I'm not going to say one is bad and one is good. I'm going to say they're apples and oranges. So opera is all, they never had microphones, right? So how do you get heard on a stage where there's people in the audience when you have this vocal instrument? How do you do that? Well, they create a tremendous amount of outward resonance, which makes the chandeliers, if they're in the room or whatever, it makes everything resonate with them. And the great architects made halls based on that. So that's their world. If you can't be heard, you can't be an opera star because if nobody can hear you, it doesn't matter. And I've heard, you know, opera singers say, well, Mick Jagger is terrible. You could never hear him on an opera stage. Well, that's true. Mick Jagger could not be heard on a stage. But opera singers who try to use microphones have a lot of, they don't sound very good to me. It's over dramatic. And so let's say that I'm an apples guy and they're an oranges guy. So my mentor was an oranges guy, but he also understood that, you know, there was too much of this breathing thing going on, too much air pressure being used by bad opera singers and by bad opera coaches. And so he was very gentle about developing power. So it was a slow process. You know, you rarely run into a great opera singer who's under 40. Most
yeah,
all the great ones are, you know, they've matured. And then there's two things to that. There's a lot of slow, gradual training, and then there's also the maturity of the human voice. They say its peak is in the 40s, 40-year-olds. So I would stay away from opera coaches if you're singing with microphones.
yeah. No, I mean, so she wasn't an opera coach. She just said that she recommended that I go to see this person. And in London, like having spoken to, you know, got the word around. A lot of people are going to there's two guys in London that everybody goes to for basically laryngeal manipulation and diaphragm manipulation. And I just kind of think to myself, like, is that really necessary? It's like when there's a show on, he's like booked up, like front, like, you know, and I just kind of think to myself, as in, this is another guy now, but it's really, really common. And for me, I don't mind doing it if I understand it, but I don't understand it. So like I've been twice. I don't know whether it did what it did to my voice. I think maybe it was better. I don't know after.
Well, if you can't tell the difference, I don't know who can. It's your nervous system.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. You know, there's a lot of networking in that world. And then even in the recording industry, I'm not a very good networker. And so I have worked with celebrities, but I'm not the number one call guy. The people who have worked with me think I'm as good as the number one call guy, but I'm not, you know, I don't draw that kind of attention. And there are opera teachers in the rock world that are in demand. There's a lot of misunderstanding about what works and what doesn't. You know, somebody was telling me, oh, there was this great singer who sang background vocals for so-and-so, and he went to this opera teacher, and the opera teacher taught him breathing for 3 months, and he really liked that. Well, you know, if you understand the larynx and the vocal cords, the breathing is a support system, but it's very minor in how you hit high notes. There are some people who see the vocal cords as just a dumb thing that you just push air at to make them work. And that's a very forceful. To me, it was like I don't want to blow a hurricane at my vocal cords because they're just going to resist me. They're going to fight, and when they fight, I lose. I have a saying: when you fight with the vocal cords, you always lose. because you'll swell them up. When you swell them up, you get hoarse, you lose your range, you lose. But the very gifted, there's an example of Lady Gaga. Okay, she goes to a coach in New York, and I've had one of my students go to the same coach. And Lady Gaga is very gifted. She can handle a lot of pressure. She can handle a lot of abuse. So this guy teaches her, honk that sucker out there, and Lady Gaga can do a certain amount of it. But the student that I taught after went to this guy for 2 or 3 months, and she said I couldn't sing anymore, so I quit. She says I could see that I was going to lose my voice, so I quit with this guy. So you get different teachers for different kinds of things, but at the same point, Aretha Franklin can outdo Lady Gaga with a lot less effort. Aretha Franklin's technique is far superior to Lady Gaga's. And I've heard Lady Gaga live where she's a half step flat the whole show because she's so hoarse.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things to consider, but let me tell you this, Natasha, and I am available via Fireplay.
Yeah.
But also, I think you need to find what works for you. I really do think you need to find what works for you. There's a chemistry between you and a coach.
Yeah, but I think also like everything that you said today really resonated, especially like the menthol thing. Because I, over time, like I've had various vocal coaches from, being little, then I've had other people. There's one guy in London that like, oh my God, I absolutely love him. He's like, I just love him so much. But I, so there's that. But then, but now I'm not, I think I'm just trying to find another vocal coach now, basically. So, but everything that you said really resonated because I definitely feel like when I've been to, I'm quite easy to please, but I know with this particular lady, I just kind of felt that there was a little bit of a resistance. I didn't really enjoy the lessons. But I think the relationship with your vocal coach is like really important because at the end of the day, that's, I think you also want to, I'm human and I want to enjoy seeing them, right?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like if it's a battle, then it's a bit like, oh, okay, kind of thing. But yeah, definitely, I think there's things that I need to work on at the moment are my range. So I have this like spreadsheet of like, I monitor because I'm OCD. So I monitor my vocal range like every year and I see like whether it's improving. And so currently I think like on it, it's like my highest is D6 and then my lowest is like C3 or something like, or maybe
C3.
So yeah, so it's not like super big, but it's, but I feel like I've stayed at that.
No, that is super big. It definitely sounds like you're not forcing because if you're forcing, you would not have C6.
But like I've had, and also one thing that she did say that was really helpful was that I can reach D6, but not with closure. So I don't know what she means by that. She said, but I think I understand. I understand like when I actually make the sound, what she means. I didn't know that it was called closure. But basically, but the thing that I am, like conscious of is the fact that I've just stayed at that range for 5 years. And I want to improve my range because I used to be able to go higher than that, like a lot, like quite a lot higher than that.
You have more flexibility then.
But like, I'm like super healthy, like my diet, super everything. Like I don't eat gluten, dairy, grains, so I feel like I should be able to go higher than that. And I think like the reason that I haven't is because we haven't actually been trying to go higher. Because my other vocal coach, his thing is, well, you can sing good, like we've done all the Whitney, we've done all the Sia, all these songs, and I'm like, but that's fair enough, but I want to improve myself. So it's not about me competing with someone else or, yeah, I can do the song. Like me personally, I don't feel like I'm improving myself. So so that's definitely like, so but in your eyes, is that something that is based on the like loose notes that I've said? Like, is that something that something that you'd be able to help with, like to
Yeah.
get to? I do want to sing high because I can sing higher. I just haven't been practicing it.
Well, you can
And
express things with higher notes you can't express with lower notes. So it comes
yeah,
back to that emotional thing that we always talking about. You know, what do you want to feel? What do you want to be able to express? And certain notes give you things that don't. I'll give you my personal experience, and then also with teaching. There, you could say there's a genetic limit. Have you ever done this exercise?
yeah,
I had a guy in here doing 5 octaves of that. That's just nuts. I mean, I had to make up arpeggios for him because his range was so big. And then there's people who top out at, you know, for women, they may top out at C3. But when I was studying very, very aggressively, when I was really, really trying to change, my range topped out with the lip roll and the ghost sound, the woo, around around D5, D to E5. But once I got my full voice range extended to its max, I went to C6 with full voice. I couldn't do it with falsetto. I couldn't do it with any of the warm-up sounds, but with an ah or an aw, a true voice sound, I could go to C6. So that's pretty bizarre. You know, I've never even heard a rock singer do that, even though they should have. I mean, Robert Plant, you know, certainly F5, G5, those guys, Ian Gillan, A5. A lot of those guys the tenors could do that. So I don't know, it's very individual, but, you know, so I don't want to promise you something that you can't genetically do, but in theory, we want to keep an open mind.
but I did used to go a lot higher than D6 before because so it's not like it is genetic. It is there, so I know I can do it. I just feel like you need to practice it, and I don't want to be going on YouTube and Googling how to do whistle register, and some ladies like, you know, it's just I like, no, you have to get a vocal coach for that. You can't, you risk, you know, doing it wrong, like hurting your cords. Like, I'm not doing that.
That's
So
good advice. I don't have any technical information on how everybody should sing. I don't have any videos. I don't have any books. I have an ethics about my coaching, and I only do one-on-one. Well,
yeah.
occasionally I do a seminar, but when I do a seminar, I'm very careful about what kind of advice I give. See, like right now, I'm not coaching you directly. You should do this. I'm not going to do that. But if you were more flexible at a certain point, then I would imagine you can get that back.
Okay.
Natasha,
Yeah.
you should do this. You should work with Brad Chapman.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you.
But you know what, every time so basically I am looking I have been looking for a new vocal coach for a few weeks. So yeah, that has definitely been like, that was also the reason I went on the very first call, because I was like,
Cool.
oh, let's see this guy. But what I have found from having vocal coaches in London is that it's real, like we were saying, it's really hit and miss. So you can have someone that everybody thinks is amazing, but doesn't work well for you. And then like the guy that I've been working with, who I absolutely love him, like in London, he's such a good friend now. I literally rang up Pineapple Studios, which is like a dance, like it's like where people go to, you know, record music videos and stuff. I just called them and I was like, right, I need a vocal coach. Who do you recommend? And then they recommended some lady in the countryside and this guy in London. And I was like, all right, fine, I'll see him. And he was really, really, really good. So, you know, for that period. But now I feel like, as much as like I absolutely love him to pieces, I think like it's definitely time to, you know, like I think I've like outgrown him a little bit. But I'm like so grateful. He's so amazing. Like he's just the nicest guy. But yeah, I mean, definitely, I don't want to be sticking to three and a bit three octaves for 5 years. I don't think that's reasonable, considering I used to be able to go a lot higher than that.
Definitely. And it's not your age. You're nowhere near too old.
Yeah, and I think
Close.
I think also like in terms of like resonance as well. So usually with him, I used to have like 2 lessons a week, big breaks in between. We'd have homework. So like I'd be doing, homework and stuff in, not all day, but like, and it doesn't actually take a lot for my voice to get very strong. So I had friends that were, who were like, oh, you need to that works for them, but they said, and it was out of love, but they were like, oh, you need to be training, like practicing every day, like, and I'm like, well, I don't think my voice wants that. I don't think my voice wants to be singing all day. Like, it actually doesn't need I've got high metabolism and I respond to exercise. I know this isn't muscle, but I just respond to exercise really well. So even like a little bit that you do, it really improves quite.
Well, you mentioned that cardiovascular exercise warms up your voice.
Yeah, so I sing on the cross trainer. Like I actually find that when I'm like going belt crazy on the cross trainer, I sing better.
Mm-hmm.
So,
It's the blood flow. It's the friction of the blood. Pumping through your vocal cords. It's making you more flexible.
And I was reading that there's like a big lymph node like on your diaphragm or something, and so it's like the biggest one in your body. So when you're actually I don't know if this is a thing. I know it's a thing for like health, but I don't know if it's a thing for singing. But apparently, when you exercise, you're effectively, recirculating your lymph or whatever. But I definitely, for whatever reason, like I find that when I'm like on a cross trainer, that's why I have one. Like at working out a lot, I can sing like everything so much better when I'm actually working out as opposed to when I'm
I recommend my students, if my students are into cardio, or if I can get them into cardio, I recommend that they do that prior to our voice lesson. Do the cardio prior to the voice. It'll be easier to warm you up. You'll get more done. What you were saying, I wanted to chime in on. You really, I know what I was going to say. So I want to talk to you as a student for a moment. So I went to Los Angeles and I studied with the most famous voice teacher in the world. His name is Seth Riggs. You've probably heard of him. No, really? No. Stevie Wonder, Michael Jackson, Barbra Streisand. It's just like all the best people in Hollywood went to him. And so I studied with him because of that, because I couldn't do things his students could do. But he did not train me with a microphone, and he did have an opera bent about him. He thought pop singers should sing like opera singers, even though he didn't enforce it to the point that most of us quit. But he did try to sell me on it. But what was very good for me was I had a 4-track recorder at home. I had a mixer, I had reverb, I had a small recording studio. So I would take his advice and I would try to use it with a mic, and it didn't work. I think all pop singers should be training on microphones. I don't care what voice teacher they have, because if it does, like what Maor said, and certainly Mayat would say, and I, even David with his classical background, he would say, if it doesn't sound good on a microphone and everybody's hearing you through speakers, then you don't sound good. I don't care I don't care who your coach is or what technique you're using or whatever. I can use good vocal technique and sound horrible on a microphone. I'm on a microphone right now. Now, I'm not an opera singer, but I can fake it. Whoa! You want to hear that? I don't want to hear that.
I have a microphone at home. That's actually why I got it, because I wanted to hear how I sounded on a microphone. I don't care for the microphone. I just got it for that reason. But definitely, I think one thing that I really like in vocal lessons is like just working on resonance as well. And I know, like, okay, I've been singing since I was a kid and whatever, and I've had like vocal lessons, but at the end of the day, if you compare me to, some of these like beautiful like church black women singers, like I read something the other day, apparently they have like 3 times the amount of cells in their body than I do. So it's like that.
There's some differences between African American
Yeah, and it's
mechanisms.
like, yeah, exactly. And I think like, you know, at the end of the day, I want to do the best that I can. So I want to be like, but definitely I think that involves training and not like, yeah, I'm not one of these people that I have to train regularly, basically.
I would say though, don't become overly technical. You know,
Yeah.
my aunt used to put me on these Google Hangouts, and he'd bring a singer on. And he'd say, work with them emotionally. I mean, I never worked with them technically. I never would. Again, because I don't believe in that. I mean, I could one-on-one, but with Google, it's like Zoom. You know, we have this, we don't have crossover, and it's not a very good platform for this. But what I wanted to say is that if I get a singer who's trying to be emotional, and I start making them think technically, I'll destroy them. They will not get a good performance out because I've got them thinking, oh, I should be on pitch. Oh, I should be on rhythm. Oh, you know, they're introverting. When you introvert, you have no emotions. You're just dead as a robot. I'm singing right on pitch. Yes, I am. But, you know, you've heard them, right? It's like, well, I don't feel anything. But then Bob Dylan comes along. Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. You know, Stevie Wonder could imitate it. It's like, it was magic. You know, I didn't appreciate Bob Dylan until about 20 years ago. And I'm 71 now, so there's a lot of years that I listened to this guy. I thought he was terrible. But I didn't understand what the truth of the matter was, is here's a man who never thinks technically. You can't get him to think technically. He knows that people think he's bad technically. But he never thinks about it. And there's a magic to that. There's a sense of freedom. I'm not saying don't think vocal technique. I'm saying keep them separate. Vocal technique here, emotional singing here. This supports this, but this should never become part of this.
Yeah, because I was thinking about what you guys have been
Mental.
saying today in terms of like, you know, bringing out the emotion. And I think because I think melodically, I like things to sound a certain way. So like phrasings and things. So I get really pissed if I did a her instead of a her. And I remember with my singing teacher, I'd be like, ew, ew, ew. And he's like, well, you didn't even do anything wrong. And I'm like, no, that's gross. That's like cringe. Oh my God, I did a instead of a. And he's just like, you're mental. But so for me, it's very difficult to get out of that because at the end of the day, like, and I think also when you're singing on a track or you're performing, you know, you've got to think about like how it's sounding to the audience. And I think like, you know, it makes a huge difference whether you do a or a to the melody, right? So I think for me, I just like I like things to sound a certain way. So when I'm singing, my voice is my brain is focused on that. My brain is focused on doing the correct vowel sounds and like that's what's going on in my head. So and then I was thinking about what you guys were saying the other day, and I was like, okay, like think more. I was like, okay, think more emotionally. And Mark was like, if you're upset, then you'll think more upset. And I was like doing it, and I just felt like I sounded shitter because I let go of my maybe I just need practice in it, but because I let go of the like trying to make sure that everything was melodic, like not even pitch. It's like literally like the nuances of vowel sounds, like, you know, can be so many different things. So I'm so heavily focused on that. I'm so heavily focused on making that serve the particular song that I'm singing that I feel like there's not extra brain capacity to be like.
There is not. You cannot feel when you're in that mindset.
Yeah.
You can't feel anything. And my aunt and I have been through this, and every time we have occasional disagreements, which are great. But think of it this way. Okay, this is your subconscious. Let it absorb all of that technical information. Just let it suck it up and integrate it and become totally independent with pitch and rhythm and vowel shapes and consonants and anything you can think of you want that subconscious to have. Just drive it in as hard as you can. Now, You're free. Now your conscious mind can go anywhere it wants because this will provide what this needs. So now if I want to think, oh, I can think that. Oh, or I can think, oh, baby, I feel so good. James Brown, I feel good. I mean, wow, what an incredible man. He just let it go, and his voice could do it. But musicians do the same thing here. A great musician will tell you that when he achieves his final goal, he cannot feel his hands anymore. He cannot see the notes on the piano. He cannot feel the frets on the guitar. All he feels is music. And then it just comes out. And we can get there faster because we have less technicality. Well, I guess that's another argument. But I think singers can get there faster because it's in our body. But go ahead, Maya. You had
So Natasha, do you have a favorite nephew, niece, cousin, anything like that?
My nephew.
Huh?
My nephew, yeah. But I actually do the singing of the to like Taylor Swift to him, and he's like, "What the hell is this?" He's like 1 year old, and he's like, "Okay."
So tell us a little bit about that nephew.
So they live. My sister had a baby a year ago. He lives in San Francisco. They're in Birmingham, actually. Like it's 3 hours from you guys. And now she's pregnant again. She's having another baby. But yeah, he's like I love him to pieces. Like I literally feel like he's my child, which is strange. But
okay, now I have a question for you. Well, number one, I guarantee that as we were listening, none of us were worried about the vowels, whether your vowels were doing whatever. We were listening and being communicated to, and we were receiving it.
Yeah.
And when you were thinking about your nephew, you ended up smiling, and you went inside your head, and you were doing all kinds of stuff emotionally, and it was coming out.
Yeah.
Were you thinking about those vowels or anything like that? As you said, your nephew or nephew. No, hold on. Were you thinking like that at all, or like your vowel when you said nephew? Were you doing any of that? Okay, so when you start
thinking, I think maybe a little. I think maybe because I'm so used to like training to listen to my vowels that maybe a little.
When you start thinking about those vowels, that's what the audience receives as that thought. It affects the result that you get. When you're thinking about your nephew and you're picturing him when he was a little small baby and the first time you held him and you're talking, that affects your vowel sound, that affects your speech. You speed up, slow down. There's an emotion there. And we'll get in. I was sitting there listening to you and looking at your face. You weren't doing that, nephew, and whatever. Like, look at the smile. Look at what you're doing. Like, it's that. You got to get, when you get into it, you can make us get lost. But if you're sitting there saying, okay, I got to make sure this E is E, and you get off into that, when it's time to sing, when it's time to perform, it takes away from it. Now, when you go and practice your tones, there's exercises where you practice your tones, and then it's like in football or basketball. We practice a shot. Then when we get in a game, we don't sit there and think technique. We take the shot. You got to play the game. If I'm sitting there thinking about this technique, this person that ran behind me, I done missed them, and all kinds of stuff happens. But
you probably heard of that great basketball coach then, didn't you? Back in the day, he had a college team and they were wiping everybody, just winning everything.
Yeah.
You heard of the technique he applied?
What was that?
Okay, he'd take these high school kids who were hot. They had a talent. You know how we talk about talent, and so they knew it, right? Because they got a lot of girls and a lot of applause and cheering and all that kind of stuff. So they come in really cocky, and he'd say, okay, he'd say, all right, here's the basketball, here's the spot on the court. I want you to throw 500 balls into that basket. And they said, well, I can do that. He says, okay, then do it. And it's something you're going to do it every day. And then I'm going to give you other spots. And he kept moving them around. What he was talking about, what Maya was saying, is integration of the subconscious. Because when that and this is what you tell these young kids. You say, look, when that whistle's about to blow, because it's the end of the game, and you're going to either win or not based on your throw, you can't let pressure get into your head. It's got to be automatic. And they call that being in the zone. And it's the same thing for singers. Singers that are in the zone, like you were in the zone when you were talking about your niece. Every great vocal producer or producer will talk to you the way Mayat is talking to you. I don't care if you're paying them $1,000 an hour or if it's free, like you're getting it right now. It doesn't matter. The information is the same.
Okay. Does that mean then practice this song to death so that you instinctively you memorize effectively what vowel sounds you're going to make, and then once you've got the point where you've actually memorized it, then let it slide basically. I think that's the way I go around it.
Yeah.
Let's say you do that. You practice your vowels, you get it all perfect like what you want, right? Then you come in there to work with me. I'm going to work my butt off to make you not think about that stuff at all. And you might not sing it like that. And it ends up being the best, meaning the most effective on the audience. You might sit there thinking, I didn't do this note this way. And the audience is sitting there just engulfed in what you're saying, the feeling of it. And then you go back and sing it the way and make sure that you get this vowel, whatever. And the audience is like this.
And they're walking out.
Yeah.
Maya, you reminded me of something I wanted to pass on to you. I think you'll love this. This guy was talking a little Instagram thing, and I like some of that stuff. And he was talking about his young boy. And he said, his young boy came to him, he says, I'm bored, Dad. And his dad, and so his response was, great. How fantastic is that? And now we can be creative. So what you were saying, Natasha, have never said it this way, but I liked it. I've told singers, sing it till you're bored. Sing it so you can't stand singing it one more time before you go to the recording studio, before you go in front of that audience. Because as soon as you hit that studio or as soon as you hit that audience, you're gonna have pressure on you, and that pressure is going to take you into places you don't want to go if you haven't got it integrated.
Yeah.
So boredom, fantastic. Be bored.
I'm definitely that way. That I think just even from being a kid and doing what I always go back to exams because it's education at the end of the day. But I always feel like I have to prepare to the nth degree to feel comfortable doing anything. Like if it's an exam or something like that, literally, an obscene amount of preparation. To not feel because I think it's also a memory thing. I'm just not going to remember. Okay, fine. Remembering the words is different because we all love our pop songs and we know all the words. That's whatever. I remember most pop song lyrics from when I was a kid, even. But that's not the point. It's remembering the articulations for everything that you're singing. So I think the way I would feel comfortable is even if prepare and everything, and then I go into studio with Mart, and Mart's okay, just sing whatever, and I just want it changes. That's fine, but I won't feel confident unless I've done all that preparation. That's just the way I am.
That's good. That's good.
There's nothing wrong with preparation. I think that's exactly what we're talking about, right, Maya?
Yes, that's absolutely good. And then another thing is when you're singing, it's each time. Say you sing a song from the beginning to end. It's not going to be the exact thing every time unless you're some computerized whatever. You can get some people get real good at that. But imagine in your last line you got a little bit emotional and caught up in it, and it's awesome. And so your next line you start a little bit late. You can't sing it. You don't sing that exact like you rehearsed. You feel the moment and adjust and just go with it. Go with the emotional feel. So the last thing, what's done now is based off of the last thing, and you do this in and out, just there's a feel that you go with. So you get different performances on each take, and you want to have it to where we have a hard time deciding which take to choose. You want to get so good that you might end up changing it totally accidentally, and we just are stuck on stupid trying to figure out which one do you think? I don't know. They're all good. that type of things.
There's emotions. This will work for all of us to talk about. There are emotions that are not necessarily healthy vocal technique wise.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And so you can run into a voice coach. You'll say, "Oh, don't ever do that because it'll hurt your voice." Well, but then that's kind of like saying, "Don't ever feel that emotion."
And when
So
I hear
you
when,
have to
when that
consider
happens,
that.
when that happens, Brad, what I tell people is, okay, you have to make a choice because like for this record and for these record sales, for this performance, you might want to do that this one time in the studio that way and get this recording that'll sing for you forever, and they pay for it and they listen to it over and over. That I try to encourage them to do that. But then there's the other thing of when they go to sing it live, they need a way to perform it live to where the audience is into it. And a live performance is not the same as, what's on that record a lot of times. And that could be a very good thing. You give them a live performance, that's a different treat. But anyway, yeah, if that vocal performance that hurts the vocal is what's best in the studio on that, I tell them to do it. But then I also have a conversation about, okay, we got to come up with something live to where, since you're not going to be doing that, which will destroy your voice, you come up with something, it's entertainment. You come up with something that makes it to where your live show, they'll come back, yeah, man, it was better than the record, or it was like, that type of thing.
Can you not just be engaging with the audience instead of changing?
That's a part of it. That's absolutely.
Well,
That's absolutely a part of it.
both Mayor and I have experienced that if you feel it, they'll feel it.
Yeah.
If you don't feel it, they won't feel it.
See where
Yeah.
Brad and I disagree? I want to choke the artist. He doesn't.
Yeah, no, I'm like I love performing. Like I'm a Leo
I don't have
Rising.
to choke them; they choke themselves.
Funny.
Sorry.
No, but yeah, basically, I mean, I love performing. I'm Leo Rising, so we're all like, look at me, like that's fine. But it's I think it's just this kind of balance between. I definitely need to work on this emotion thing because you can be technically everything sounding perfect and like, whatever. But I definitely, when I listen to songs, and I'm listening to quite a lot of reference tracks at the moment just to get prepared for like some songwriting. So, and you listen to it and you like listen critically and you're like, hold on a second, she's actually singing. It's very simple, but he or she is singing this in an emotional way. And that's why it has the impact. And it's not just because it's very, very simple melody actually, because you sit there and you're like, okay, what is the melody? And you're like, and you're like, well, it's kind of basic. And then you're like, oh wait, hold on a second. The reason is that, it's for the emotions. I completely agree with what you guys are saying. It's just, like but I definitely have this thing where, the technicality is like so at the forefront of my head, like in terms of that and it for me, if it's not like, I know you guys are gonna like be like, this is meant to, crazy, you're gonna tell me off, but in my head, if I didn't do that perfectly, it's a disaster. Like if I miss like one little thing, it's a disaster. And I really have to get out, and I'm quite hard on myself. So I think I just have to get out of this mindset of, everything having to be perfect. And the way that I'm guessing to do this is to just prepare it to death. And then at least you're confident, and then when you go into studio, just do different things and then see, and then let Mark on the side. Yeah,
You've got to
exactly.
trust your practice. You're going to trust your practice to the point that you don't feel. See, if you go in the recording studio in rehearsal mode, that's what you're going to get.
Yeah.
A recording of you rehearsing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I'm okay there. I think it's more just the getting the emotion across, like, but like really getting the emotion across, not like a little bit, because we're women, we have estrogen, we can be a bit drama, like we're good at being emotional, like sometimes, but it needs to be more than that. It needs to be more than it needs to be more emotion than I think what's currently coming out. And I know definitely Mark's going to expect like you'd be crying or whatever. So
Well,
I can
how,
help you with that. There's
yeah,
again, I like to separate the worlds. There's two kinds of practices, you know. So there's the integration, and then there's the doing. You know, there's the no try, just do statement. If you're
yeah,
still trying, then you're still in rehearsal mode. That's what I meant. So if you go in the studio and you're trying to do things because you don't trust them, you don't feel that they're ready, then that's what's going to come across. It's going to be this technical rehearsal
yeah, of course, yeah,
recording. But if you really trust everything and you've practiced, you've practiced trusting it. So in other
yeah,
words, you have completely let go of your technique and sung totally emotionally as a rehearsal. That will get you closer to the studio and the performance than your technique will.
I have practiced allowing myself to be emotional in front of people. As a man and people in my culture, that's a hell no. But I believe it was Brad Chapman, Khalid Glover, and Dave Hampton. I think each of them said something that they got me on this path, and this was said to me that to watch movies and allow myself to feel whatever's in that movie. And and then one of them said to sit and watch stuff on TV without the audio and try to get in touch with the emotion of whatever's going on. You can literally practice allowing yourself to feel whatever emotions. And one thing you can do is do that around people where you would feel the embarrassment and you let that embarrassment come across, accept it, get used to it, and allow yourself, like if there's a moment where you would feel like crying, go ahead and cry right in front of all those people. I did it. Like we were watching Black Panther and my kids are sitting right here with me, big grown father, Baba, right? And I'm watching and I'm crying while this movie is going on. They know me as the manly man. And here I am crying, tears coming down. I'm allowing it while they are right here. That's huge for me. But when you do that, you can get past yourself, your ego, by doing these type of things. Can you do that? Like where you allow
so
yourself to feel emotions and let it come out?
so like I'm like Capricorn, so like our go-to is to be like, why is that woman being so emotional? Drama, like stop it. But recently in the past, I think few months, or like maybe a year, I've been being okay with being, you know? So like I've been like, no, you know what? If I'm pissed off, I'm just gonna be pissed off. Or like I basically this, I don't know why it happened this year, but I just start caring less about being drama because obviously when you're British, right? It's like
Similar to black.
everyone's very
Stiff upper
like
lip.
everyone's very put together and da 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 da. So if you're a little bit drama, everyone's like thing. But I think you know I've basically started to allow myself, and also because I think subconsciously I knew that like I need to work on this emotion thing. So I was like, right, I've allowed myself to just be more emotional. But yeah, definitely, I think
I'll
that is
actually train with an artist where we sit there, go find emotional stuff, and we both have to sit there and allow ourselves to feel it in front of each other. Like but what happens is like they'll see me doing it and it's like, wow, if he can do it, I guess I can do it. And like there becomes a trust. But this is
yeah,
something that I actually will do with an artist. Because it's a scary thing. Like you guys are exposed, your voice, you guys are exposed when you go to sing.
Can't hide
That's
behind your
real.
guitar.
Yeah, that's real personal. So I'm telling you, get into yourself, allowing yourself to be emotional. If it's bad for you to do that out in public, not a problem. Do it to where you're like at least allow yourself to be in the house and you're
yeah,
watching a movie and you let the stuff come out and then okay, so I would have an artist because of the embarrassment stuff. I would have an artist go somewhere public where there's a lot of people and say sit on a bench and close their eyes and just sit there like this and let people come by and they'll start hearing people talk about them like what is this person doing It is nerve-wracking. But people will be coming by talking about that person, sitting down, asking, "Are you okay?" And they can't respond to anything. They just
Like a mime,
sit
huh?
there. Huh? Yes.
Like a mime, yeah.
Yes. Eyes closed, not no, like people will come up and go like this to you, all kinds of stuff. But when you wake up from that, when you open your eyes, you literally you're changed for however long. Like the first time I did it, when I opened my eyes, I didn't care about, there was all kinds of stuff I just didn't care about. It was nothing as people were walking by, because now I could see them. But with my eyes closed, all that stuff is magnified and scary. And when I opened my eyes, it was nothing. And I kept doing that as an exercise to myself, and being allowed to be seen as silly and stuff like that. I'm telling you, you can do work to where when you go to sing, everything changes because you're allowing yourself to feel. And it's a major thing to be able to allow yourself to feel.
So what do I do? Because I'm literally going to walk to Holland Park tomorrow and do it tomorrow. So I'll
here's
there.
here's one of the toughest ones, Natasha. And I got a great experience here through Quincy Jones via Tom Baylor. So I'm working with an actress. Her name was Rebecca De Mornay, and she has a cult film with Tom. Oh, great! I can remember his name. Tom. Anyway, it was a movie in the '80s. It was called Risky Business, and Rebecca was a prostitute, played a prostitute, and the other fellow was a young boy that she was kind of bringing into age, so to speak. Anyway, she was a very sexual woman. She let that happen. And they hired her to go into a major movie, and she was called The Slugger's Wife. And her job was to be sexy as a wife of this baseball player. Anyway, so I said to Tom, I said, so why don't you and Quincy come over here and tell me what you want? You know, I'm working with her every day. You know, they wanted her to be a nightclub singer, and she'd never been a singer at all. She never sung. Actresses and actors do that kind of stuff. They do like 6 months of something they've never done before, and then they present it. Anyway, so he comes in and he looks at her, and he says this with a straight face. He says, what we really want from you, Rebecca, he says, you already have this very, and if anybody's watching this who doesn't want to hear language, plugs your ears. He says, what you have about you is this very innocent come fuck me thing about you. That's what we want. Now, here's what happens to Mayat and I and other producers. Women bring in songs that are very sexual. There's a lot of them. And what are we supposed to do, right? You know, we're supposed to bring that out. And when you come to this concept of if you feel it, we'll feel it. Now, some women are very good at acting, so maybe they can act sexual and it'll still come across. But there's some women who can't. They've really got to be horny while they're singing, or it's not coming out. Now, that can be, you know, you've got to trust the people. Like Mayat said, there's trust, right? So if there's 3 guys in the room, you know, and you don't trust them, don't go there. Yeah. But if you do trust them, it's magic.
Speaking of that, Brad, the band Jodeci, they had to sing a song that was a sexual type song, and they were church boys.
Oh boy!
And they said, I can't do it. I can't do it. So the producer said, all right, come back tomorrow, and he filled the room up with half naked women.
There's a guy who knows how to get what he wants,
and the song's a hit.
Yeah,
the song's a hit. I will find the video of them talking about it because I don't even remember the song right now, but I'll find the video of the producer talking about it and send it to you. I'll send it to you too, Brad, just so you'll have it in your archives. But that's what they did, and it worked. And
they're like directors. Directors will do whatever it takes, you know.
Yeah, or like if you the movie Love to Love You, Baby. There's a movie where that came out. Donna Summers. There's a movie that came out about that. There's a whole thing they did to get her to sound that way.
Yeah,
Everybody
Donna was a
loved
very
it.
sexual woman. She was very comfortable with it. She was like
Yeah,
one of the first African American sex symbols.
yeah.
And she
And
came out in the disco era with "Ooh, love to love you, baby." I mean,
and
she feels it. You know, you feel it as a man. You feel it. You say, "Yeah, I want to hear more of that."
there was a reason it sounded like that,
Yeah.
you know. And yeah, so you have to be careful what you write and what you bring into people, because it is our job to help you get into that state, feel it, and exude that. Like if Marilyn Monroe was coming in singing "Happy
Mhm.
Birthday, Mr. President," and it's supposed to be the sexual type, whatever, whatever. We have to create that environment and make it to where she can really do that, get the recording of that. Yeah,
So what Maya and I are talking about is the end result. You know,
yeah,
technique is a tool. I like to
yeah,
say that if technique does not facilitate your emotional performance, why are you doing it?
yeah.
What's it worth? Okay, I can sing a C6. Okay, fine. Show me what you can do emotionally with it. Do you ever heard of the girl Minnie Riperton?
I've heard of it, but I don't
Well, she had
remember.
a very famous song called "Loving You
Oh
Is
yeah.
Easy." Okay, so here's the thing. So in this part, she's singing this line, and then all of a sudden, she jumps up an octave. She says, "Oh, was that an orgasm? What was that? I don't know, but it sure sounded good, and it sure was easy for her to do." But, you know, there was a purpose for that in that song. It wasn't just it was F sharp six and then kind of a semi scale coming down. Started F sharp six and then came down from there. Very easy, very simple. Why? You have to ask her and the producer, or ask yourself, what did that do for me when I heard that? But it had an emotional purpose. She wasn't just showing off that she could sing F6. Yeah.
Everybody sings these same notes, but they're not the same notes emotionally. So what are you doing with the notes emotionally?
Yeah, I don't think I'm like it doesn't come out emotionally dead. Like there is some there, like I'm female at the end of the day, but I think it's like just not as much as yeah, like I think as it could be basically. And I think it's getting that little bit of that it's getting past that little bit of emotion to like it sounding do you know what I mean? Moving an audience rather than oh she can sing. I
Well, if
think
I was your
that's
vocal coach and Mayat's your producer, I would tell you to trust him 100%.
yeah, I do.
If he says it's good, you don't touch it.
And
Yeah.
I saw you doing the emotional thing when you talked about your nephew. So you're not emotionally dead. You like when you talked about your nephew, you went there.
Oh, everybody can speak emotions. Singing them is a
Yeah,
different issue.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
There's
When
a
we
great
start to sing
story.
it, there's some change that happens.
It's a great story with Linda Perry and Christina Aguilera. I don't know if you've heard this one, Maya, but
Okay.
do you remember the song "Beautiful" by Christina
Yeah.
Aguilera?
Yes,
It's basically her first. It
love
was
it.
her signature song, right?
Yes.
And so when that was done, you know, Linda Perry said, "That's done." You know, that's great vocal, Christina. Go home. You know, Christina said, "I don't know. I think I can do better." And Linda said, "No, you cannot. You're not. We're not touching this." And Linda said, so Christina came back and says, and this is Linda telling the story. I'm just passing it on. So then Christina convinces Linda. Well, Christina says, "Give me a couple of months, and I'll come back and I'll do it better. I guarantee it. I'm going to come back and do it better." So Linda, you know, getting sick of all this, says, "Okay, you know, yeah, all right, you know, come back in a couple of months. I'll make the appointment with you." Christina walks into the booth. She starts singing, I don't know, 30 seconds, 2 minutes in, whatever. Linda said, "We're done. No, you're not doing this better." See, Christina got in her head.
Yeah.
So
She's
she could do
focusing
it
on those
better.
notes and stuff. And yeah,
And sometimes, and Quincy Jones talks about this, especially with the digital age, he records everything because sometimes the best magic is when no one expects it. No one, not the singer, not the musician, not the producer, not the engineer. Nobody saw it coming, but it's a keeper. There's
Yeah.
magic. There's magic going on here. I'm not a big guy on magic. I'm more of a science guy, but there's magic going on here.
So it's funny you mentioned that particular song because that particular song is like whenever my old vocal coach, the one I like love, when he's like, because he likes me singing Christina. I don't know why, but I feel like every lesson with him is like a performance for him, and I'm just like, this is not why we're here, okay? But basically, I'm like,
Make him pay you.
like, you're not improving my vocal range, okay? So like, but anyway, so that particular song, like when he gets me to sing it, I hate it. I'm just like cringing inside because the Capricorn inside me and the Sag moon inside me is like, ew, like get a grip, woman, like get over it. It's fine. Like, why are you being crazy? Like all this goes through my head. And so inside, so when I'm singing it, I'm like, she is drama. Why is she being so drama? Instead of like actually, singing the emotion of it. And we tried like 3 times, and I'm like, I just hate the song so much. I just hate the song so much.
Are you talking about the beautiful song?
Yeah, like because for
Sing
me
it about
it's
your nephew.
okay.
Put your nephew right in. Bring your nephew into the studio. Sit your nephew right in front of you and sing that to your nephew.
Oh.
Tell your nephew you're beautiful. Look at you. Go ill now.
Huh?
Go ill now. Singing it about your nephew.
But I like, I'm a big kid with him, so like everything.
You have to find the why.
When you're playing with your nephew, are you thinking about how you're playing with your nephew, or are you just playing with your nephew?
I don't know. Being like a big kid because I can be a big kid.
Yeah, see? Yeah. Just play. The recording studio is a playing environment. Why do you think people get? Why do you think there's wet bars in the?
I definitely like. And so one thing that I said to Mark like a few weeks ago was that in studio I want to feel like I'm having fun, like because as soon as I get if you get into this mindset of being like, then it's not gonna nothing fun. So I like, again, Sag moon, we like to be we're like happy all the time, right? So that is the environment that I want when I'm in studio. But so I think, but definitely with that particular song, it's been a struggle. So like I think other Christina songs like Sia, Chandelier, like amazing. But for some reason, when we get to that song, it's like I just hate it.
You just don't have a reason why. That's all. Yeah. So watch this. So is your grandmother still alive? Do you have a grandmother that is still alive?
I have one grandma.
Okay. So we bring your grandmother into the studio. We bring your nephew into the studio. And then we bring a cancer patient who's lost all her hair, who feels ugly. And we have you sing that song to each one of them individually, 1 hour apart, where you come in, they're sitting there waiting, and you're the guest, and you're going to sing it to them. And you got to look them in the eye and sing that song to the cancer patient to let her know that she is still beautiful.
Okay, I might start crying.
Well, like Maor said, there's songs you shouldn't sing. They're not you, and it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
But you see, you just said, "Oh, I'm going to cry." Like you got in, you found a reason why for that song. If you see, you connected all of a sudden, and then like what Brad said, there's songs that I know I shouldn't be singing. I'd go to sing and I'd be like, yeah, I can't do this, bro. Even if you gave me a why, like there's just certain things. But I'm telling you, you singing to that cancer patient who feels that she's ugly, and you want to tell her she's beautiful, and you're singing that song to her, you've already connected. And then your grandmother, say like you bring your grandmother in, and you're going to surprise her with her granddaughter singing that song to her, and this is the last time you might spend with your grandmother where she has this, this is a moment in life for you. You'll sing that song. You won't be sitting there thinking, ew, as you sing to your grandmother. And then you sing it to your nephew. I guarantee there will be 3 different performances, and you'll be connected as you're singing, whatever that connected means. But now you have a reason why to sing it instead of just, oh, you're beautiful. And you're communicating. You got to communicate that to them.
You've got to extrovert to some degree.
And then if Brad and I sat in front of the microphone together and you sang it to us, I guarantee it'll be a total different performance then too.
And if you notice some of the greatest artists that we love, you hear the studio version and you hear them live, it's different. Well, that's the only time they did it that way in the studio. That was the only time they ever sang it that way. Most of these great artists are not like scat singers or like, guitar improvisers. They don't shred and all that, but they always change. There's always a little subtle changes in their phrasing and in their pitch. I've seen this especially on Melodyne, where you judge and you say, that's flat. Well, it wasn't flat maybe in the live show, but it's flat in the studio because that's the way it felt. And so your pitch and your rhythm and your inflection should always be in flux, because you're a human being. You feel different, like he's saying. You feel different every time you sing. So it should be a little different. I mean, that's perfect. Perfect is not perfect. I love Corey saying, perfect is not perfect. Yeah, I don't have the time that Maya's got to put into all, what he's doing, but I agree with it 100%. I think it's fantastic. And the fact that he's helping people he's helping one of my students. He's just a great guy.
Well, the funny part is, this was a huge struggle for me. I mean, huge. And Brad and Khalik and the guys, they helped me develop this stuff. This was a huge problem for me.
He was a good student for us.
I mean, I was like, it was horrible. It was a struggle for me. And now I'm smiling.
Yeah, I don't use the get the student angry thing to get him to sing an angry song. What I would do is I let the song get him angry. This is my approach. But see, it's different. We're all doing it different. And again, that's the chemistry. Finding the right producer is a huge chemistry. There's a story about Kenny, the saxophonist, Kenny, whatever.
Kenny G.
Kenny G. Thank you. Yeah, he had done all these albums with this record company. They'd all flopped. And he was ready to actually say, I don't think you should sign me again. I mean, he was into that mindset. And they said, well, you know what? We want to try one more thing. We want to put you with this producer, and we want to try one more record. Made him a world name. That combination of him and that producer went from total failure to total success. So a lot to consider. We don't want to bury you with so much stuff that you feel like you can't use any of it.
But, I think that I definitely, I'm used to having lots of information. So for me, that's a big, throw more basically. So I wouldn't worry about that. It's more just, I know what my Achilles heels are, and it annoys me when I can't do them. So then whatever it takes to do it, I'll just do it.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is I don't want to feed your perfectionism.
Okay, I don't know what you're going to do about that, because I think that one's bad to say.
Well, there's a way out. There's a way out. There's a way through. There's a saying, the only way out is the way through. And one of the things that Maor is doing for you is he's making you go through it. There's a way through. So what's
that thing you want me to go do in the park tomorrow? So I'm going to go do it in the morning. You want me to go sit on a bench, and I'm going to close my eyes and make sure my wallet is hidden and be like, what am I doing? What am I thinking sad thoughts? Like would
it make you feel subconscious if you were to sit on the bench and just smile big and just hold that smile for just a long time and let people walk by wondering why you're smiling?
No, because I'm usually quite smiley anyway, so people usually smile back. So that
okay, what about a frown then?
Yep, I was about to say, what about a frown? But your eyes are closed when you're doing this. Say you make an ugly face and you just sit there.
I mean, there's quite a lot of psychos in London, so you see that quite a lot. So I don't think it would worry anyone.
It wouldn't. But we're talking about you.
Anything. Well,
how would it affect you?
Because I know there's loads of psychos that do that. So.
Yes, but when you do it, what would happen?
Maybe you could do it at a party of friends.
I've become an introvert these days. I don't really like.
Oh, okay.
Just try it and let us know what happened.
The thing that if we're just trying to get me to feel uncomfortable, maybe if I was got myself to cry and then actually sat on a bench and was crying, that would be just being sad on a bench. That would be uncomfortable for me.
Have you ever sat somewhere and just had your eyes closed and people walked by and you didn't open them, you didn't respond to them when they spoke to you? Have you ever done anything like that?
No.
Just try just simply that and just see how it affects you. Because once you do it, you'll know the truth about how stuff will affect you. Like when somebody says, "Excuse me, ma'am," you don't answer them. Nothing. like a Buddhist monk, nothing. No response, no nod, no nothing.
I mean, I've done that in bars with guys.
You know,
Do you have a phone number? I don't have a phone. I
But
don't have a
no,
phone.
your eyes are closed and there's no response. You just sit there, no response, no matter what anybody does.
that could be a little frightening for a woman in a bar.
Yes, it can.
Because
It
they
can be
might
a
grab you,
Yes.
thinking that you're not going to resist.
And even and see, the thing is,
Have
when
a
you get
bodyguard there
frightened-
with you.
Yeah. See, when I do it, I go out with artists and like, I'll even tell people like, touch your face right here. But I won't, the artist doesn't know. I'll be like, just touch your cheek or touch your arm. And I'll tell the artist, no matter what anybody does, I'm there to protect you, but don't react, don't move. And it is an experience. Just all I can say is try it.
There's things you can do on stage that you can't do anywhere else.
Yeah.
And one of my examples is Rod Stewart with his, if you want my body and you think I'm sexy, you think he could walk up to a girl and say that and get anywhere? No, but he can get on stage and have thousands of women yearning for him because he's on stage, And then again, there's things that women can do on stage too, because they have people up there that can protect them.
Yeah.
And so they can be, maybe they can be erotic dancers or whatever, but they feel you've got to find an environment where you feel some kind of safety to do some of these things.
Yeah. Like you said, with your friends, you can be with your friends and just sit there with your friends or your family. Don't move for 15 minutes, 20 minutes at a family get together. Just eyes closed.
They won't think you're psycho.
They already think I'm psychic.
Well, okay, well, I mean, they won't think you're a street person who's schizophrenic. Anyway, guys.
Yeah. Yep.
I got to close it up. I hate to be the one because I learned. A great coach always learns, and when I listen to you guys, I mean, all of these podcasts are great learning experiences for me. How much of that I'll be able to pass on kind of depends on the student I have at the time, because some people just can't absorb this kind of information, and others, it's so nice to be able to use it because they're advanced enough.
This stuff will be here when we're gone. I still get people commenting about the stuff we did, Brad. Like every time they come across it and they message me, man, this is a treasure trove of stuff. I'm like, yeah, like it's doing work without us. So when we're long and gone, this stuff will be on the internet for people to learn from.
That's great. Well, I've told some people I take comfort. I think my aunt and I are at least 20 years apart. So there's going to be a time when he's doing this and I can't do it anymore. I just will not be able to do it. And I'll be happy that there's it's still going on, that I had a part of that. I'll be able to sit there, I can't do this, but my aunt can.
You have helped me big time. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no denying it. It is what it is. Yeah.
And you've helped us a lot. It's interesting to hear some of these stories you tell me, because I can't do that with I can't do that with a student. I can take him to the park and everything. I don't get that direct with students. I've got them for an hour and I give them stuff, but and you've asked me, why don't I become a producer? Well, I don't think I would be good at that. It's too much. It's too much for me. I've got too short of attention span, I guess.
But I think it's fair enough to expect this stuff from like a performer, because at the end of the day, like you said, and you guys were saying before as well, when you have acting, they literally go for 6 months and learn something. So why is it too much to ask of a singer to just spend a week?
Exactly.
Like getting into a mindset like that.
Exactly.
Just do the. Do you know what I mean? I don't see that as a big ask. So really, it's just a case of just finding the right people, which you guys are, like to
thank you.
So you're doing the right thing, and then just do it.
Well, Maya doesn't use this word, but he's radical. He's like me. We're radical. You're not going to run into people who talk the way we talk to on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. But I think it's not just the being radical. I think it's also the, being very skilled and actually like really laser sharp, knowing what you're doing.
That is radical.
Yeah. Okay. So the
I know. I'm using the word as someone who's kind of outside the what's the fray. We're kind of out on the edge of the fray. You know, we're to certain people we're very valuable because of that, but we're not the fray,
Yeah.
if that's the right word. Well, we're not everybody. We're not just passing on what everybody else passes on. I'm not just passing on to you what Seth Riggs passed on to me. I've changed much of it. You know, not that I ever thought anything you taught me was wrong. Some things have just changed because I'm not willing to just be him. You know, and my aunt's not just willing to be Quincy Jones. And he will take Quincy Jones's stuff and he will make it radical. He'll take it wherever he needs to go with it, you know. And so that's why I decided that was the best word for me, because I'm not a vocal coach as many people would image me. That's another reason I like doing these podcasts, is get it out there, you know. I mean, my aunt knew it right away when he met me. And did you ever meet Mark?
Was he one of your students?
No, he was a producer that I became friends with, and he came to some of the Grammy. Palladino. Mark
Yeah, you brought
Palladino?
him on. You brought him on. Yeah, you had him on one time.
Yeah, okay.
You had him on with us.
When he met me, within like a couple of minutes, he said, "I've never heard a vocal coach talk like that." He says, "I've gone to vocal coach lessons with some of the people I'm producing," and he says, "I think they do nothing for them." He says, "But he says, you work like I do," and I learned a lot from Mark, because this is, you know, a great evaluation is just watch directors. I mean, sometimes it gets really hairy, but I mean, they're responsible. We were talking about this a little bit with Frank Green. They're responsible for what comes off on that camera, and they're going to help you as an actress. They're going to help you find it. Now, in this case, you're Natasha. You're not Natasha trying to pretend to be Christina Aguilera. You're Natasha. It's different in that respect, but it's our job. If we're not getting it out of you, then go find somebody else.
No, but it's definitely the right chemistry and team. I feel confident of that. So it's just lots of work now.
Well, you're my most regular at these podcasts, so there must be something going on.
Keen. But yeah, no, I'm really grateful, and I don't think I've said this enough before, but like honestly, like I've had a lot of coaches for different things, but I literally, this resonates a lot with me, and it's definitely the right energy as well, and I'm a big energy person. If the energy is off, then I even, doesn't matter how talented or amazing the person is, like I won't, like it, you know, I'm a big believer in these things. So yeah, I just think this is completely the right fit, like 100% the right fit. So I'm really happy. So thank you guys.
I'm always available. You reach out to me and we'll work. And then you'll be able to do things for my aunt that you couldn't do before, and he'll be happy about that.
Guys.
All right, y'all. Thanks again. See you next time. Next time will be my aunt. It will be the star of the show, and it's going to be really a blast. We're all going to
We'll
love
have
it.
some fun.
Yep. All right. Have a great night or evening or whatever your time zone is.
All right, now. See y'all later.
All right. Bye-bye.
And I'm going to be working. So
All right.
bye.
Bye-bye.